The 5D's era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Showcases just how much the franchise at the time was changing, more specifically for the card game with the new mechanics coming out, but also in the vein of the anime series, as we will be getting what feels like the most dark and mature version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That we've seen yet at this point in time between 2008 and 2011. Well, most dark and mature outside of the original Season 0 series, but as for what Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually became, 5D's didn't come to play around. Today we are going to continue our look into the dystopian world of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's by checking out the second season of the anime to understand all it has to offer by exploring the lore here. Plus, we will also take a look at the differences between the original Japanese version of the show and the English dub, as there are some big changes. So don't worry, I'll go through all of that as well. While this is the second part in a 5-part series, each episode can be experienced and viewed standalone, so kick back, relax, and get your game on. No, that was GX. Get your head in the game. No, that was Troy Bolton. Let's rev it up. Yeah, that's it. Nailed it. In the last part of the series, we explored the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's, getting to meet our main new protagonist, Yusei Fudo, and understand the more futuristic world this version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Offers. With a strong focus on classism, racism, and so much more, we really get this tale of two cities-like setup that takes Yusei from this heavily policed and labor-driven decaying city known as the Satellite to the more clean and benefiting from the Satellite's work secluded city known as New Domino City. With the game of duel monsters becoming more of a sporting event as they race on motorcycles known as duel runners to do so now, the fame and riches that can be earned from it drive people to take it seriously and see it as a way out of their current situations. Whether you're from New Domino City, or in Yusei's case, from the Satellite, which is looked at as a sin and in most cases illegal for him to even be outside of where he's from. But in general, these turbo duels are some high-octane excitement that most duelists want to be a part of. Along with Yusei, we also focus on the character of Jack Atlas, the king of turbo dueling, who also was from the Satellite and at one point had a friendship with Yusei until an opportunity came knocking for him to abandon his old life and be brought into the big leagues in New Domino City. Aside from this central rivalry, there is something larger at play going on as we started to just barely uncover the true power hidden in the energy that comes from dueling and the chosen ones that are all tangled into some plot involving this Crimson Dragon and its power being released upon the world. By the end of the first season, the true destiny of those marked by the dragon are all coming together, culminating on what looks like a vision of the destruction that could be coming in the future. With Yusei just wanting to understand the bigger picture, and Jack just wanting to prove he's the best and is the main character, their built-up final clash results in Yusei defeating Jack and becoming the new champion of turbo dueling. There are so many mysteries left up in the air to uncover and understand. Why are these specific people marked by the dragon? How can they all come together with them mostly all being either at odds or separated on their own paths? And will this vision of the future come true? So without further ado, let's jump into Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's second season. Jumping right back into where we left off, we catch up with Yusei's friends back in the Satellite, where they get to see that Yusei has just beat Jack and has now become the face of turbo dueling as its new champion. Yusei is still mocked by many in the crowd for being from the Satellite, claiming that he is not one of them, but it doesn't seem like he's taking it to heart all that much. He's much more concerned with Jack and the visions of everything that they just saw. We then get introduced to Carly Carmine. She's a journalist who is easily pushed around by others, more specifically her old acquaintance of Angela Reigns, a reporter for the Daily Duel, who is the type of cutthroat individual that will do what she needs to do in order to get the story. We see how these two already clash with one another, with Angela having reached a way higher level of success, as Carly is still grinding to become a front-page reporter, as she's sleeping out of her car and not really earning a paycheck yet, but is coming from a way more passionate background of of how she goes about reporting the news, but more on her in just a moment. As for Rex, he doesn't really care much about anything aside from the stars starting to align, and all that matters is that they will soon become one, being his cryptic self as usual. He reports to the media waiting outside, claiming that specific stuff that they all just witnessed was nothing more than some technical glitches and it's all good. But then Carly comes in with more intense questions, pointing out the fact that Yusei's arm was glowing and if that had any connection to the giant dragon that appeared. Rex plays dumb, of course, and for now, that's all the answers given to the general public, but he does take notice of how Carly is taking notice of these things, giving off a glare that can't mean anything too good. Yusei luckily is able to escape the media coming after him for questions and interviews thanks to his friends helping him leave the area through an underground service tunnel. As all of them agree to head to Blister's place to lay low for a bit, Luna is looking a little off, as she then admits to Yusei that whatever just happened, she was somehow there as well and saw the satellite being destroyed. They both agree that they have to figure out what all of this means and to stop this vision of the future coming true. Yusei is also focused on figuring out what the spider outline means, as that can help lead to the answers that they are seeking. Carly ends up realizing that she may be onto something if Goodwin is actively avoiding her questions, so she wants to continue following this lead, but because she's only an intern and not doing the mundane task of going and getting her boss coffee, she's fired. Well, nearly. Once she explains the scoop that she's after, her boss seems interested in what she can bring back on Rex because he's never liked him. So her job, or well, internship, may be saved after all. Also, she's like playing back the footage from the duel and analyzing it while she's driving, which is so reckless, even Ben stopped looking for the stolen Star Wars Legos for a moment. She's already a complete klutz. She doesn't need to be making this as dangerous as Extra Emily does on the road. All right. Enough references. We then get the introduction of a new group of cloaked characters, all who have knowledge of what the signers are and what the Crimson Dragon is. All of that on top of knowing who Rex Goodwin is, as they seem to not be on the same side as him and his plans. They say that it's time for them to make their presence known, claiming they must lower the curtain of shadows on Domino City, quoting someone named the Great Bard by saying what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive, showing off that the members of this group have glowing purple eyes, and based on all of these context clues, clearly show us that they are connected to the purple flame spider that we saw in the vision of the future. Beyond that, to really lay it in, they claim that the dawn of the spider has come, and soon it shall cloak this world in darkness.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
Back with Yusei and the others, Yanagi tells the others more about his knowledge of signers and the Crimson Dragon, drawing out the full marking image of the dragon where Yusei shows off his marking is the tail of it, while Luna's is one of the dragon's claws. Yanagi explains that the dragon marking is split into 5 pieces: the head, the wings, the hands, the legs, and the tail. These dispensed out markings would then make their way through the generations, being passed down to the next in line to bear the marking, leading to the ones that have them today. How is that process done? Who knows? But they all just can't figure out who that 5th signer was, as they must have been there at the arena for that all to happen like it did. Even though, we as the audience know that Rex has been secretly hiding his own marking. The mysterious group we saw from earlier is now out on the streets warning the citizens of New Domino City that the Crimson Dragon is fully coming and to not let it tempt you in with its promises of fame and fortune, saying that only by denying the dragon's call can they all be free, as we start seeing a spiderweb grow in the sky and it starts to attach itself to the citizens. We also see one of them in a dark alley show off that they have a glowing mark on them, this one being the same design as the big purple flame spider, as they claim that the time has come. At the same time, Yusei's mark starts glowing, but this time to him it feels like a warning, as if there is something evil near him lurking. And oh, would you look at that?
Would you look at this?
Just look at it.
Would you look at this?
There's some darkness right outside, as Yusei sees the person with the glowing purple arm marking outside his building. Yusei thinks that it's the 5th signer, but whoever they were starts running away, leading to him following in pursuit. But of course, this was an obvious trap to lure Yusei outside and away from the others because, duh! Once alone, the cloaked figure tells Yusei that he is a shadow drone, and that if Yusei wants some answers, his master said that these two need to duel. Much like we've seen in the show with stuff like the Shadow Realm, or the Seal of Orichalcos, or any of the stuff going on in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, there seems to be a duel gimmick here as well for this group, as a purple ring of fire now now surrounds them as the shadow drone says that they have both been offered up by the light and placed inside the energy ring of the eternal shadow. For what the stakes of this are, and for what it all means, well, we will soon find out because we need to duel first, of course. With this being the start of the season, we also, of course, need to see the main character have his main go-to monster come out, and on his first turn no less, as he gets out his junk warrior. As the battle is going on, Yusei notices that from the attacks, real damage to the environment around them in this ring is happening, causing him to question if that's what this gimmick here is doing. But the shadow dude over there is just laughing, not really saying anything more about it. Oh, and then this guy brings out something known as a dark tuner monster. Okay, alright. Is this all just like the same thing that we saw like in GX, you know, when we had the elemental heroes, and then we had like the destiny heroes, and then there were the evil heroes? His dark tuner monster then has the shadows absorb the light from his other monster, letting the monsters technically feed off of each other as they then create negative energy. And Yusei's all like, what? I thought negative energy was only just a theory. An energy theory. Thanks for dueling. We can see on the cards that this shadow guy is using that the stars on the card themselves are negative colored now, saying that he is summoning a negative level 5 monster, for example. He then says that when the shadows are devoured by even darker shadows, the curtain pulls back and reveals a world without light, as he then synchro summons Frozen Fitzgerald, which has got to be one of the funniest names for what this thing is. But Yusei is worried as he has no idea how to face a dark synchro summon, leaving us on a cliffhanger for the first episode. But luckily, you and I don't have to wait because we're gonna get some answers right now. Take that, Carly. I am the journalist now. Speaking of Carly, Carly ends up spotting this odd stuff going down as he just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Or the wrong time. Who knows? Foreshadowing? Maybe. Anyway, she arrives on the scene like she's Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, having her camera ready to record whatever this secret underground match the newest turbo dueling champion is having with a mysterious guy who also has a glowing mark on his arm. In the duel, the shadow drone's dark version of cards is keeping Yusei at bay from doing too much, putting him to the test to see how he could even get around any of this, telling Yusei that as long as he believes in the Crimson Dragon, then there is no hope. Yusei ends up getting out Turret Warrior and juicing up his attack points to 3,500 thanks to sacrificing Junk Warrior, but the attacks back and forth are so powerful that it escapes just the circle that they are in, nearly crushing Carly with the first part of her name, a car. Also, I think I found my new favorite reaction clip. What? This won't get old quick. The shadow drone goes on about dark and light being two sides of the same coin, which I am glad someone said it because throughout all of Yu-Gi-Oh! You would hear that the darkness is bad, then it's the evil light who you should fear, and now in 5Ds, both the light and darkness seem to be bad rather than these necessities for balance. Oh, and this guy mentions the name of the group that he's a part of, the Dark Signers, which are like the Signers, but you know, dark or something. What? They claim the Dark Signers have the power to erase the light of the Crimson Dragon's marks. This shadow guy is proving to be quite the powerful opponent and putting Yusei on the ropes at only 100 life points left while his are going up. For Yusei's grand comeback, he ends up tuning together Sonic Chick, Speed Warrior, and Quillbolt Hedgehog with Nitro Synchron to synchro summon Nitro Warrior with 2,800 attack points, adding another 1,000 to that thanks to his spell card Junk Barrage, and through Yusei's attacks, he's able to use Nitro Warrior's ability to save the day and attack multiple times, officially defeating this shadow drone. With this win, Yusei rushes in for some answers, and we get the reveal of this mysterious guy being Chaz? What? Nah, but it kind of looks like him a bit, you know? This is actually a guy named Grady, and he has no idea what's going on or what Yusei is talking about. Plus his spider marking is now gone as well. Carly comes over and starts doing her journalism thing and bombards them both with questions, but at the same time we see this little purple glowing spider crawl away and disappear. The same thing also happens with the dark versions of cards that were within his deck as Yusei searches it to see that they are gone now. And wait, hold on a sec, run that image back, I saw that. You're telling me that Grady's official Japanese name is Dick Pit? That might just be the best name I have ever heard. Every like on this video is one like for Dick Pit to come back. Anyway, Sector Security is pulling up to the scene with Yusei escaping the area for now, but Security ends up getting their hands on Carly's camera as they also bring her and Dick Pit in, and I'm not gonna call him Grady. We see more bits about these spider possession powers happening thanks to the League of Mysterious Individuals individual dark signers here, with this guy's marking missing legs on it until only one of the missing ones reappears, claiming that one of their targets got away. We also see that one of these spiders is nearing Jack Atlas in his recovery bed, so that doesn't seem too good. Rex ends up looking at the footage Carly recorded, confirming the dark signers are making their moves, clearly showing us that he knows exactly who they are, as he tells another new mysterious person that if these guys are trying to fight, they'll get more than a battle. They'll get a war, and yeah, that line was pretty hard, not gonna lie. Yusei returns back to the others, telling Tanner about what he just experienced, and mentions this other group out there called the Dark Signers. Back in Satellite, we see the Dark Signers continuing to spread their message of being anti-Crimson Dragon, with this turning those listening into brainwashed zombies, essentially. We also see that Angela, the other reporter from earlier, ends up releasing a story about how Yusei isn't the champ, completely making up a fake news story as Carly is angry over seeing this being put out there. She's not as angry as Yusei's old friends though, they're pissed about it, but they get interrupted by a surprise visitor, with that being Blister coming in to make contact with them after being a watchful eye for their safety for Yusei. Back with Yusei though, he needs to get to Goodwin for answers, this time having some direct help from an unlikely source in order to get there safely, as Officer Trudge comes to pick him up and give him a police escort. He even mentions that if this temporary truce they have gets them to Goodwin all good, then they might have to consider Trudge being one of the good guys. I know, wild. Carly gets let out of being held by sector security, but she is not given her camera back, prompting her to want to get to the bottom of Rex's lies. She's also into fortune telling, with her own deck being based around that, as she uses the cards as a way to see how her day is going to go, and most times her luck seems pretty bad, but only time will tell just how bad. We get this whole documentary movie premiere thing going on, where it's a movie called Atlas Rising that tells the totally real story of Jack Atlas and how he became the best, or how he was the best, I guess now. I like this one paparazzi's comment about that if they just waited to make this movie, they could have titled it The Rise and Fall of Jack Atlas. And like, who do you think you are, a YouTuber? Anyway, the press is here in attendance, allowing Carly to get into the event and one step closer to Rex in order to get the info she's after, but after figuring out where she needs to go, she starts to sneak off to go find Jack and hopefully get the real answers here. But for some reason, she is stopped by a model named Misty Treadwell who is in attendance, who, much like Carly, is into the whole fortune-telling thing, claiming she does it through reading faces, telling Carly that her face is haunting. Okay, ouch. She's getting picked on enough here by Angela, but, you know, go ahead, sure. As she glances deeper into Carly's eyes, she tells her that there is this path that she will take, one that will take her into some sort of darkness, but adding on that when she chooses to take said path, that she will know herself better than she has ever before, so maybe that's a bonus. Choose the dark path to get some sort of enlightenment, you know? It makes sense to me. I said that sarcastically. After this odd interaction, Carly runs away to continue her own plans here, but in the Japanese version, she isn't warned about some vague dark path ahead of her. She is straight up told that she is going to die in the near future. Geez, yeah, that would freak anyone out. Now, Trudge was able to get Yusei safely to the sector security building, bringing him to Lazar, who will then take him to Rex from there, while Trudge is told to go and get Jack, treating Trudge as this little errand boy. But he's not the only one going to the hospital to see Jack, as Carly arrives right before he does, but she's in disguise as a nurse, and I am sure this is going to go great for her. But also, it's not going to go great for Trudge, as one of those special spiders gets him, making the glowing marking appear on him, as he is now under control of the Dark Signers. Jack Atlas can't stay put though, as he tells Mina, who is watching over him, that he needs to be alone, as he then uses this time to grab his things and technically try and make an escape, but Trudge comes around looking pretty messed up as Jack takes notice of the mark on his arm, remembering what he saw in the vision of the future. Oh, and Carly's here too because she's just great at being in the middle of things. This version of Trudge says that his master is a Dark Signer, and that he was sent here to extinguish the light of Jack's mark so they can envelop the world in a cloak of darkness. You know, they keep saying this, it's gonna be a thing. But man, thank God that these bad guys are just telling us what they're gonna do. That's so nice of them. Carly catches Jack up to speed about all that had happened with Yusei, leading to him having an interest in taking on this fight, you know, because Yusei won his duel. But here he has Carly directly help him in the duel because of his weakened state. And if Yusei could beat one of these guys, then he says he should have no problem doing the same, as then they get surrounded by the purple flames. But man, you know, Jack, he still got it, because on his first turn he is able to get out Strong Wind Dragon and have it powered up to 3,400 attack points, then using its abilities when attacking to deal some strong damage to Trudge's life points. But aside from Trudge just trying to deck out Jack, he is bringing out all the dark stuff like we saw in the other duel. Dark synchro summoning Dark Diviner, who quickly puts Jack into a very limited card situation to overcome this duel. Jack's next strategy has him synchro summoning Exploder Dragonwing with 2400 attack points, and thanks to its ability, it's able to destroy Dark Diviner and inflict the 2000 attack points it had directly to Trudge's life points, winning Jack the duel. But remember, the damage is real, so from this finale to the duel, a massive explosion happens in the hospital for everyone to see. Trudge collapses with no memory, of course, as Jack, in his weakened state, asks for Carly's help to escape from the hospital, to which she does. And she may have a little crush on him, but you know, I'm not gonna lie, Jack was being pretty smooth with Carly, coming off as this calm and collected guy that is not blaming Carly for anything she's done in the duel to make things worse, or for constantly exposition yapping. But the big stinger here at the end is that Yusei was brought to the edge of what looks like a missing bridge that would connect New Domino City to Satellite as Rex appears to him, telling him that it's time that he knows the truth about where he comes from and where he's going. So far, while there are the usual Yu-Gi-Oh tropes at play here, this is a pretty great introduction to the second season of 5D's. And with this season being a good bit longer than the last, there is still so much yet to explore.
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's.
Signing back on.
We start off this next episode with the introduction of a brand new character named Crow, as we see him in some warehouse that he broke into, where he is grabbing deck after deck, feeling like he's going to look like a superhero to young duelists on the Satellite. But outside where his duel runner is parked, Sector Security has shown up and is looking to take it in along with him. We could see from his face that he's clearly been branded a number of times as a criminal for whatever he's done, so dealing with Sector Security here wouldn't be his first rodeo. As he makes his escape, he is prepared to deal with any of them head on, seemingly having too much fun with it all. He ends up being forced into a turbo duel while riding away, but again, he's having a good time and feeling extremely confident in himself. This poor Sector Security guy though is so focused on not failing to catch Crow, being ready to face him in a duel, having his whole strategy planned out and knowing he's a great duelist because it's mandatory to be great if you want to be in Sector Security, but he may just have to eat Crow instead because Crow here uses his Blackwing monsters instantly to win him the battle. As he continues his escape towards a chasm, he's got another trick up his sleeve, or should I say under his rudders, because as he drives off the cliff, his duel runner expands out some wings and he takes flight, and you know that he's just gonna soar, or crash and then be extremely sore, but luckily he's fine. He lands safely on the other side and makes a solid getaway from the law. We then see him pull up to a bunch of kids, handing them a bunch of the cards and making sure that they know to not get caught by Sector Security for having them, as he promises that one day they won't have to worry about that anymore. That's so sweet. Oh, yeah, weren't we going to get some answers in truth about some things with Rex and Yusei? Okay, so back with them, we hear that this bridge was never finished being built because of what Rex calls the evil underneath Satellite, and this way it stops them from ever getting to New Domino City. He wants to make sure that these evils never get here, especially with the battle that's coming, as he also warns Yusei about the eternal darkness that may soon envelop Satellite unless someone can save them. Yusei questions why he doesn't do something to help them, but Rex says it's because by the citizens of Satellite staying over there, then there's no way for the darkness to come over here. Right, so what about those spiders helping infect people with some sort of controlling powers that's already happening in the city? But whatever, I guess. Anyway, Rex fills Yusei in on the basics of his mark, going over him being a selfless protector, and that there will be these challenges of darkness that can take over the face of a stranger or even someone he knows, but they will all bear the mark of the shadows. As Yusei is chosen to be a protector of light, the Dark Signers are the protectors of the dark, and the war has already begun thanks to Yusei's battle, with Dick Pit being the first of many battles to come. Rex begins doing what he did last season and giving us a bunch of lore here, saying that 5,000 years ago, that there were two great armies, one of shadow and one of light. Their battles spanned the globe and nearly destroyed the planet in the process. The army of light was an army of 5 powerful dragon creatures that were sworn to protect the Earth, with the shadow creatures in the shadow army only known to us today through the Nazca line markings in the ground that they had left from being defeated. Back when there was just one final battle left to that war, the dragons didn't have the strength themselves to win, so they combined their power into one entity, which would become the Crimson Dragon. Through these flashbacks, we get to see what the 5 dragons are, where we already know 4 of them, but at least we get to see the 5th one there for now, as they all stand alongside the Crimson Dragon to defeat the darkness. The essence of these shadow creatures was then buried deep within the earth to seal them away, but in one final act before being defeated, they ended up capturing and bringing the ancient fairy dragon with them, leading to why we saw that dragon imprisoned in stone for Luna's connection to them. But in knowing that these shadow creatures would return one day, the dragons sacrificed themselves, splitting the power of the 5 dragons throughout the generations, and those chosen for if the day shall come that the shadows return, as two can they. Hopefully, what if all these 5 people, didn't link up? What then? Also, if there are 5 dragons here and then the Crimson Dragon, shouldn't this series be called Yu-Gi-Oh! 6D's or something? I don't know, something to think about. Rex continues then to talk about energy and how they have built a way to absorb dueling energy, but in order to get to where they are now, risks were taken in the past, and at one point, they actually built a prototype energy reactor underneath the slums of what we would know now as Satellite, hoping to absorb that energy and use it as a positive force. But instead of this going to plan, the reactor had a meltdown, releasing negative energy instead, splitting New Domino City in 2, and anything above where the reactor was became infused with negative energy, turning the area into a wasteland, and thus, this is what became the Satellite.
What?
Which is like, the big revelation here, a pretty big important factor to understanding why things are the way they are, and Yusei doesn't really have that crazy of a reaction to it at all. He should have reacted with,
What?
This won't get old quick.
But whatever. Rex continues on to say that the negative energy blast was so powerful that it shook the earth, and from there awoke the sleeping army of shadows underneath the surface. Rex does feel bad, I guess, for what happened, at least he says so, but he just needs Yusei to be on the same team here and help, explaining that the tournament was really just a way to bring all of the signers together, and then together all of the signers can work together and defeat the dark signers to stop the shadow army from coming back together. Yusei wants to get the people in Satellite to safety, but Rex counters with saying where would they be taken? After Satellite, New Domino City would fall next, then the rest of the world. He says that the first real big battle will need to happen in Satellite, directly where this source of darkness is coming from, telling Yusei what the people need is a hero. Yusei needs to be that hero. He needs to defeat the Dark Signers. When Yusei accepts fighting the Dark Signers, he questions who the 5th regular signer is, as Rex says that he's working on it, and for now, Yusei needs to head back to the Satellite. Speaking of that, underneath the Satellite, where the reactor originally had its meltdown, the Dark Signers have gathered there, preparing their plans to have the shadows take over everything. Okay, but enough of all the lore dumping for now. I know, it's a lot. Aside from all of that, when Trudge finally wakes up from what happened, Mina is there and shows him that he was dueling and that he had that weird mark on his arm, and oh yeah, Jack is missing and they need to go and find him. And they do, because they tracked where Carly went, which is just, her apartment. But Jack tells Mina that he's not going back to Rex. He's done listening to them and doing what they tell him. He's also still not feeling too great about losing in general to Yusei, so he's a bit groggy. Oh yeah, and he's also extremely hurt. I do like that Trudge tries apologizing to Carly, telling her that he wasn't himself and that, he wasn't trying to hurt her. So that's cute. Why are they trying to make me like Trudge this season? It's weird, but I'll roll with it. Also, Mina seems jealous, almost like she has a crush on Jack, and thinks that Carly is now this other woman directly in his life, that he's choosing her over her. But aside from Jack being smooth with Carly, he still can't even remember her name. But who cares about all of this? We get this epic ending moment where Yusei launches out of the back of a sector security aircraft on his dual runner to land back down in the Satellite. What? It was pretty epic. Waiting for him, though, is none other than Crow, as it's made clear that these two know each other and have a past, with Crow telling Yusei that he has a lot of nerve coming back. Oh yeah, it's about to be a fist fight. As the two of them charge at each other, raising their fists up, they end up just dapping each other up and are completely friendly with one another. Alright, you had me there in the first half. Also, just look at this special dap up. We got the traditional meme dap, a second lower handshake, and then a pound. And these guys gotta be real close because you don't just do that with anyone. That was practiced between them for years to perfection. You gotta love it. As they catch up, we hear Crow talking about basically being like a Robin Hood figure, taking from the rich to help take care of the poor, which is what we saw him doing with the decks of cards in the previous episode. Crow explains that things feel more deserted than ever thanks to these weird cloaked guys coming around and preaching their anti-Crimson Dragon rhetoric that is turning the citizens into these zombie-like followers. And with Yusei wanting to figure out what's really going on and save the Satellite, him and Crow head back back to where all of his friends are in the tunnels, giving us a nice little reunion. This doesn't last long because Sector Security has been tracking Crow, trying now to get him here at the hideout, so because of this our group here all splits up and they plan to meet somewhere else later on. Sector Security has some new toys though, these special drones that are being piloted remotely to get into the action. But Crow won't be facing them alone as Yusei comes to help him out here, turning this into a tag duel with Crow and Yusei working together to face off against the bots. During this battle, which serves as a way for these two friends to show off to one another, mostly Crow wanting to show off, let's be honest, just how good they really are. And then we hear Crow say, you know what they say, birds of a feather flock together, and that's fine and all, if it weren't for him saying the same exact thing in the previous episode when he was dueling. I just hope that this doesn't become a reoccurring thing, you know? Like when you have a catchphrase, you keep it short, get your game on, let's rev it up. Not quoting Billie Eilish lyrics like you're posting an Instagram picture. Anyway, Crow ends up synchro summoning Blackwing Armor Master with 2500 attack points, setting up a strategy for Yusei to come in and combine in Crow's already synchro summoned monster with a tuner of his own to synchro summon Turbo Warrior with the same amount of attack points. But that doesn't matter because the strategy here was for Crow to set things in motion with some effects and face downs for Yusei to play off of them to finish off the duel, resulting in the two of them making a clean getaway. As they ride away, Crow talks about Jack going MIA after being in the hospital, with him also bringing up if Yusei is mad at Jack for all that he did to him, but Yusei says no. He understands that Jack thought he was doing what he had to do at the time. If he didn't grab that opportunity, he thought he'd be stuck in the satellite, so yeah, Yusei completely gets Jack's side of things, with Crow being surprised as he knows he himself would hold a grudge if that happened to him. In general, I am enjoying seeing these two together. They do have a great chemistry with one another, and an even better dueling bond, it seems. As for Jack, he is still struggling over his loss, feeling like yesterday's news for how others are treating him after it. Seeing all the reports, headlines, and comments from fans, or ex-fans, it's all just making him feel like he's nothing more than a loser. He ends up escaping from Carly's apartment, or it's a hotel room, I guess, based on what Carly says. Wait, hold on a second. What am I even talking about right here? Okay, we've established that right at the beginning, she basically lives out of her car, so she doesn't have an apartment, or I guess and she has money for a hotel or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on, because I'm gonna get stuck on all these little things, and I know y'all hate when I do that. But she follows him, trying not to let him get mobbed by people in the media since he's out on the street alone. But I do love this moment where he's trying to get into the train station and he needs to swipe his Metro Pass, and he's just like, what's a Metro Pass?
What's a Metro Pass?
And the way the line is delivered is just, it's perfect. Carly is playing up everything she's doing for Jack, all in the efforts of her still getting her scoop for her story, wanting to get him to open up to her eventually. So there's a bit of playful nonsense going on here, like Jack being put into a ridiculous disguise so that he can be out in public. Mina and Trudge are following them around still, not sure of what's really going on here, but she doesn't trust Carly, so for now they're just keeping an eye on them. So when, for whatever reason, they end up going to an amusement park, Mina and Trudge follow them on all of the rides, even the unnecessary ones like this bungee jumping one. But yeah, of course Jack had to look so cool while doing it, as if it didn't faze him at all one bit. Jack's still in his feelings though, even after a kid recognizes him under his disguise, having confidence in him being a champion again. He then has this vision of Yusei and is still determined on settling something with him and wants to find him. But others still want to find Jack, like Angela, who bumps into Carly after hearing that Jack was spotted in the area, as she's after the scoop of if the rumors of Jack being from the satellite are true. Carly's own moral compass is already making her feel like a bad person for still wanting to get her own story out of Jack, but she's building this caring connection to him where she feels incredibly protective of him. Thanks to Jack overhearing Angela talking about Carly being a reporter, he ends up walking away as Carly pushes past Angela to go and deal with what Jack may be thinking about her now, knowing that there were these other motives at the end of the day. When Carly finds him looking out of the top of this tower to see the satellite, she brings up that he can be open about this stuff, and despite what he may or may not have heard earlier, he does open up, explaining what happened, saying he betrayed his friend and all of the people he grew up with, asking what was it all for? Why did he give up everything that he was? Was it just for temporary greatness? In order to be the duelist he wanted to be, he lost sight of the duelist he really was. He says that he wanted to be the greatest, but now realizes that he took the easy path, feeling like it's too late to change that. Carly offers some advice telling him that it's not too late. He can have a do-over essentially if he wanted, learn from those mistakes of the past to move forward in a better way, as well as that he can go back to the satellite, make peace with his friends, and right his wrongs. As he then thinks of what that would look like, returning home, being happily greeted by all of his old friends, and even getting a pound from Yusei. And I mean, it's nothing like what Crow and Yusei had going on, but a pound's a pound. He agrees with Carly, saying she's right, he's done hiding and feeling sorry for himself, and it's time to move on. And then this moment is turned from inspiring to silly for a second, as the hat he throws off the building building to blow away in the wind was hers, and she's all like, man, come on, that was my hat. And he's all like, my bad. Anyway, it's time for my new personal growth arc. Screw your hat. Things get even more personal between the two as Jack mentions to her that she can go ahead and write whatever she wants to about him, but she says she's decided not to. She doesn't want to add to the mob of people pointing fingers at Jack, and from this whole experience of them being around each other, they both feel like they learned a bit more about themselves and who they really are. Jack ends the combo by thanking her, but more importantly, addressing her by her actual name, and that's really sweet. Yusei and Crow eventually meet up with the others near this partially built bridge, with there being no relation to the one we saw from the other side in New Domino City, but it was also meant to originally connect the cities together. Crow ends up telling a more detailed version of the story of this bridge, as it started off as some person's idea to connect the two cities in order for people to choose where to live, which from there is where the trouble surrounding it all began. This mysterious person who came to the satellite sparked this initiative, spending all his time building the bridge by himself, but through this, it inspired people to help join in, giving hope to those living in the satellite for a way out. But once sector security came in to shut things down, this stranger who had wings on his dual runner like Crow does end up taking off from the bridge, soaring into the air, but then was never seen again. From that day, dual runners were banned in the satellite, and the bridge has remained unfinished since, with no trace of what happened to that mysterious person. Aside from that story being told, Yusei also caught the others up to speed about the Dark Signers and why he's back in the satellite, ready to face them all head on. We then cut to a news report talking about how one of the Nazca lines in South America has seemingly vanished, as we see the spider's outline disappear from the ground as Rex watches this all on TV. As the report goes on to mention other Nazca lines are starting to disappear that represent other creatures, Jack and Carly are seeing the same news report, trying to figure out what any of this means. The Dark Signers end up being alerted to Yusei being back in the satellite, but when the leader of the group here wants to personally go after him to defeat him in a duel, another member of this group named Callan stands up and says he's going to do it, claiming he has a debt to collect. Now, in the middle of the night, Yusei ends up trying to leave on his own to start dealing with the Dark Signers, but Crow stops him, claiming he's coming too, and even after hearing all of the risks that come with this, and what could happen to him when facing a Dark Signer in battle, he still is in for the sake of saving the satellite, even more especially for the sake of the younger kids he looks after. Eventually, this Callan guy finds the two of them, ready to put Yusei specifically through a real challenge, with his marking representing a giant rather than a spider, and from this, not only Yusei, but everyone else's Crimson Dragon mark starts glowing, alerting them that something is going on with Yusei. Mina ends up calling Jack to inform him that Yusei is about to duel with a Dark Signer, arriving in a helicopter to then pick him up and bring him over there. And that ride over to the duel isn't just tense from what they could be heading into, it's tense because Carly and Mina are butting heads with one another, so you know, that's fun. But what's more fun is Jack dropping us a bigger bombshell of information, claiming that he's not the champion anymore, and that if you're from the satellite, you shouldn't be champion. As he then says Yusei was actually born in New Domino City.
What?
Yeah, crazy comment to drop right this second, but I appreciate the lore nonetheless. Not only was he born into the higher class of living in New Domino City, his own parents were the ones behind the first Energy reactor.
What?
Before Jack continues, Mina reminds him that this is classified information, but he doesn't care. He's tired of lying and pretending, continuing on to talk about the earthquake that tore the city apart, but, you know, like we already know, it wasn't an earthquake at all, and instead was the result of the reactor failing and negative energy being released, cutting New Domino City in two, with half of the city left to rot away, which became the satellite. If the people knew the truth, madness, riots, and more would ensue, so it was easier to lie and blame Mother Nature. Then Yusei's parents weren't seen or heard from again, so when he was just a baby, they shipped him off to be an orphan to live in the satellite. Carly couldn't even report this if she wanted to because the higher powers that be would shut that down so fast and lock her away. But anyway, back with Yusei and Crow, Callan reveals themselves, saying hello to some old friends as once again, he's a character that has some personal history with both of these characters. He's someone who was able to leave the satellite and they thought he was never going to come back. Callan claims that he's back because of the mark on Yusei's arm, and even more importantly, he's made some new friends, referring to the Dark Signers and becoming one of them. He was once a friend, but now is ready to show up as an enemy to give them the duel of their lives. Or just Yusei. It's not really clear yet who is fully involved, but we'll find out in the next episode. And Callan now activates the purple flame lining thing, but rather than it just being a circle around them, it forms the full Nazca line symbol of the giant into the ground. So, you know, that's probably not too good. And hold up, that Nazca line of the giant here, it really looks familiar. Who could it be? Wait, hold on a second. There's no way. Is that my boy John Rod? Also, the rest of Yusei's friend group eventually notice that both Yusei and Crow are gone, and naturally, since they are worried about them getting caught up in the dark signer business, they all head out and search for them.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
Unlike what Yusei has faced before, this isn't some random person named Dick Pit who is being puppeted around by someone else. Callan is one of the top people pulling the strings, claiming that he's the real deal, baby. Crow ends up not being trapped within the Nazca lines like Yusei is, so that's good for him, not so good for Yusei. But this Nazca line of the giant isn't just on the ground, it's mirrored into the sky above, allowing everyone from the satellite and from New Domino City to see it. The helicopter with Jack on it arrives as he sees that not only is Crow back around, but the dark signer, Callan, is someone he knows as well, with Callan feeling even more excited for this reunion, claiming that the crew is all back together again, referring to something from their past that I am sure we are going to get some sort of flashback and explanation to, right? Right. I hope that it doesn't take several episodes for us to find this out, though. Yusei and Callan have a bit of an exchange back and forth, with Yusei claiming that Callan is the one that betrayed all of them and took things too far, as Callan claims that he didn't take things far enough, telling Yusei it was all because of his weakness, to which he responds by saying that he had no choice. As to what they are talking about, we don't know yet. Alright, seriously, where's the flashback already, though? Jack mentions to Carly who Callan is, claiming they used to all duel together and be close friends, and now we finally get into the flashback, where Crow starts thinking back to it and saying that it used to be the four of them against the world. We see Crow getting bullied and beaten up by this random dueling magician gang, but he's not alone, as backup for him arrives as we see the silhouettes of Yusei, Jack, and Callan enter in, with one of the magicians getting worried and saying the enforcers are here, but in the Japanese version they were called Team Satisfaction, and I think enforcer sounds a bit better. We get this epic dueling situation where they all forcefully connect to the magician's duel discs and lock them into a battle, all for the sake of stopping these guys terrorizing duelists in the area. Plus, they all have this undeniable drip with their outfits here. You can really feel it being inspired by the wasteland-like vibe of the city. They end up making quick work of the magicians, and from all the work they've been doing, it seems like they've really cleaned up the city. So yeah, the Enforcer's name fits because they are enforcing justice onto those making things miserable for other duelists. Jack continues on the memories by talking about how the satellite used to be even worse back then, and most of the different districts were filled with these duel gangs that controlled the different areas, and if you wanted to survive in Satellite, you found friends, stuck together, and laid low, which is all a stark contrast to when we see Jack last season in Satellite by himself in his own district, essentially, when he gets pursued to come over to New Domino City. But here, when they were all friends, it was Callan who decided that they will take this no more and start fighting back to protect the other districts from the duel gangs controlling them, rallying Yusei, Crow, and Jack to want to fight back with him as they create their own official dueling gang. It started small, only saving their own district first, but Callan was ambitious, wanting to liberate all of the Satellite from the gangs like this. Callan was basically the leader of the group, and all three of them would follow him anywhere, but sometimes you can lose sight of what you're doing, which is what would eventually happen to Callan. But before we really find out what happened, the duel between Callan and Yusei finally starts, holding us up for another episode until we find out what Callan did that crossed the line, because who doesn't love the suspense? Anyway, this would be a turbo duel, as they will be racing and dueling within the outline of the giant Nazca line, with Yusei's life on the line, as if he loses, Callan warns him of being immersed in the shadows of the Netherworld, which is basically just, dying. With the battle just getting heated up, and Callan teasing what new strategies and cards are coming up for Yusei to face, the duel is not going to be an easy one for Yusei to make it out of. This duel has a lot more emotional stakes attached to it thanks to the past that these four duelists have, with Crow and Jack watching it all go down, knowing just how amazing Yusei would have to be in this duel to defeat Callan. Things get extremely tough in the duel once Callan then Dark Synchro summons 100-Eye Dragon with 3,000 attack points, and with its special ability, it can gain the special abilities of all the dark attribute monsters in the graveyard. Yusei is taking a lot of these hard punches from Callan on the chin, and is just trying to keep up in the duel, not really having a clear strategy yet to find a way to defeat him. But the emotional connection between the two clearly is there in both of them based on their responses to how they feel about what took place in the past, which I am sure will be coming up in a flashback again soon, any minute now. No, it's okay, I'll wait.
12 seconds later.
Oh, fine, we'll get there When we get there, Yusei knows that the only thing he really can do at the moment is dig deeper into what happened with Callan, wanting to know why he turned on them. And oh, there it is! There's the flashback! We see more from how they were all a team, going around and cleaning up the city, making it a safe place for everyone. It was a great time, and they were basically this vigilante group that was fighting for the overall greater good. But then it all came down to the final duel gang that they had to go up against to completely accomplish their goals of cleaning up the entire city, but it could be their toughest challenge to face yet. We see them get into this big duel frenzy with this gang that outnumbers them, where every member of the enforcers here gets a moment to shine and of course deliver some cheesy one-liners while they do so. You gotta love it. At one point, one of the guys Yusei is after nearly kills him by trying to make him fall off of a building, and the cutbacks back to Yusei screaming were pretty funny and do ruin the tension of the moment. But of course, he is saved by Callan catching him. Once safe, all four of them corner the final guy and have accomplished their goal, as they all then make an oath to each other that they are going to be together as friends forever. Oh, how it always goes south from there, huh? Well, at this moment, yeah, they have completely saved the city from the duel gangs. But Callan jokes that he guesses they need a new enemy to go after as they all laugh, but maybe, just maybe, Callan wasn't actually joking when he said that. While we cut back and forth between the flashback and the current moment, we see in the duel that Callan has increased the attack points of his 100-eyed dragon to 5,300, sending in attacks to try and make Yusei feel the pain that Callan has felt ever since what happened, and now he's been carrying around all these years. Yusei almost gets extremely hurt, being pushed into the purple flames, but luckily he becomes Ghost Rider for a second and rides his duel runner on them before saving himself for now. Then we get to see the big moment, the thing that changed the dynamic of this friend group, and that was Callan now setting his sights on Sector Security to take them down. But all we really get to see is the aftermath of the event, where it looks like Callan may have killed a member of Sector Security, as Callan then claims that Yusei turned Jack and Crow against him, as they wanted to stop him from doing what he was doing and going after Sector Security like this. He was getting too violent and taking things too far, ending with Yusei holding Callan down as the law shows up to get him, with Callan threatening that Yusei will rule the day and he'll pay for this. Is this whole thing getting dragged out over the course of 4 episodes? Yeah, it is, because there's another episode that continues it right now. We now officially enter into a titled arc for 5D's called Earthbound Immortals, Unite to Duel, clearly being titled after the Dark Giant we just saw Callan use, and for what the other beast that we'll probably see will be called. The rest of Yusei's friends finally catch up to the area to see all that's happening, with Crow filling them in on what's going on, and now with everyone in attendance, they're just in time to see Yusei struggling to stay in one piece from all of the damage he has taken, and the same can be said for his duel runner as well, as it's not looking too good. But just because he's down doesn't mean Yusei's out, as he ends up synchro summoning his Stardust Dragon with 3,300 attack points, with 300 of them being a boost from his Hyper Synchron tuner used in summoning it, and then on top of that, gaining another 1,000 to make it 4,300 thanks to his strategy of attacking, activating his Shard of Hope trap card, using the Heart of the Cards to pull a trap card to activate the effect, thus being able to use that trap card, which was Miracle Locust Trap, allowing for Stardust Dragon to attack again, and force Callan to draw a card which would in theory break his 100-eyed dragon strategy. This starts feeling like a comeback for Yusei, getting some real damage in, especially continuing his combo to play the trap card Synchro Destructor to inflict way more damage onto him that could essentially be the game ender. Callan just barely squeaks by, being able to stay in the duel, and Jack, while watching this all, says that Yusei's mistake would be thinking that he's got this whole thing wrapped up and has already won, knowing that Callan still has something up his sleeve. And Jack would be right, because the card that Callan has in his hand ends up being his most powerful card, and before he summons it, we start seeing all the Shadow Drone members of the Dark Signers appear around them, tripping up Yusei as to what he's seeing. He and the others watching realize that the people the Dark Signers have been converting on the streets into zombies are now these Shadow Drones, and they've been taking them all to this underground area of their hideout in the original reactor area, and forcing them to be these pawns for a situation like this, as Yusei wants to know what the Dark Signers are doing with these people. Callan says he's going to chain their energy to this card he is about to play, and from there it will give it unbelievable energy. And just like how when we see dark synchro summons happen and it looks like the monsters are painfully sacrificed for it, the same looks like it's happening for the controlled people, as Callan brings out Earthbound Immortal Kakakapu with 3,000 attack points, as we get this grandiose summoning of the dark army creature that represents the giant on the Nazca line in all of its 3D animated glory. Like, I know there was still dueling and all of that going on, but so much of this doesn't even feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! In the traditional sense, and I'm really enjoying it for it taking risks to feel different. There seems like there is nothing Yusei can do to fight back against Shadow of the Colossus over here. His attacks and traps aren't doing anything, as then the hand of the giant crushes Yusei into the ground, making him crash as all of the people who have the mark of the Crimson Dragon watch as their marks stop glowing, feeling like they know Yusei was hurt. But this was just Yusei's dual runner breaking from it all, not Yusei officially losing, as Callan gloats that it took him out before he could take him out in the duel. Callan says that he may have been able to survive this encounter, but he won't outrun fate. The satellite will be obliterated and there's nothing Yusei can do to stop that. Callan calls back his immortal giant beast, taking away the Nazca line flames as well before he rides away for now, leaving Yusei in what seems like critical condition as Crow runs in to bring him to someone named Martha's place.
Why did you say that name?
Jack wants to go after Callan, but he's still not in the best of shape and his dual runner isn't with him, so there's nothing he can really do. But in the Japanese version, he was instead wanting to go and check in on Yusei to make sure he's okay, and you know, that's just sweet. I like who Jack is this season so far. Yusei's other friends all make sure they get his broken dual runner to make sure nothing worse happens to it, since they all worked with Yusei together to build it. There's a piece of all of them inside of it, so for what it means to all of them and for what it means to Yusei, for what it symbolizes, they have to save it too. They even sacrifice their own cards in order to get away from others on the street at night wanting to take the bike from them. Heck, they even give away their clothes right off their back to these people just so they can get away. They know Yusei would do anything he could for any of them and never complain about it, so they will do whatever they can in return for their friend. Luckily, they end up running into Blister, who pretends to be sector security to scare away more people trying to steal the dual runner, as we then end the episode with Yusei over at this person Martha's house, as a doctor is then tending to his wounds while everyone waits for the hopeful good news of Yusei being okay. But he won't be. Yusei just dies right there. I'm just kidding. No, but for real, he's really seriously injured here.
Good news, everyone!
Yusei is going to be okay and make a full recovery in a few days, so yay, that's great. In the meantime, Tanner and Yanagi come in to help look after Leo and Luna to make sure that they can keep them safe from all that is going on and what could be happening. Leo is hoping that he's important to all of this as well, like his sister is, wanting to know if his Power Tool Dragon card is one of the 5 dragons from the past, but sadly, no. It is not that 5th dragon we haven't met yet, but I am sure we will in due time. They were also thinking of sticking together with the other signer that they know of, Akiza, but Tanner mentions she's a part of that weird secret Arcadia group as they collect psychics from all over the world and test their abilities, apparently making it so that they can do things like move objects with their mind with their apparent main objective of having the psychics duel and cause real damage. They end up wanting to go pay Akiza a visit for the fact that Luna doesn't believe she's bad, or would purposefully be like that, and Leo, wanting to be like a superhero, thinks they need to save her from that group or something, which, you know, he's not wrong, but it's just funny here that these 2 little kids are the ones who convince the adults that they shouldn't safely stay put. We see that over at Arcadia's headquarters, or whatever you'd call it. Akiza is still training under them, and Sayer is the kind of prick you'd think he would be after what we learned about him at the end of the previous season, where he's basically manipulating Akiza, gaslighting her, and just being a fake person to her face. We see that here with his comments while overseeing her training, and then directly to her face when he reminds her of all he's done for her and how she had no one and nothing before he came around. He wants to get some answers out of her for why she seems so unfocused since losing to Yusei, with him all being like, is it because you have a crush on Yusei? That is the type of stuff he's pondering, but she doesn't want to open up, claiming that it's nothing. Then he gets alerted to the twins showing up, as he was already interested in them based on all the psychic stuff happening between them. Well, mostly with Luna, but in general, both of them. Akiza is going through something, thinking back to her duel with Yusei where she claims that he was the first person to see her as a normal person, so there's plenty more to Akiza's personal arc that's gonna come. But with Leo, Luna, Tanner, and Yanagi coming over to the Arcadia building to meet with Sayer about her, Sayer himself promises that he will help however he can with this threat, pushing past their interest strictly being with Akiza, as he claims that she's personally really busy at the moment, but this was all just a setup to knock them unconscious so Sayer could get to Luna, having the real interest in her and her powers. But first he wants to know if Leo possesses the same gifts, as he is willing to put that to the test. Luna wakes up next to Akiza in this viewing room, not really sure of what's going on, as down below in a duel chamber where we see Leo is chained down and forced to wear a helmet that will help determine if he has these dormant psychic abilities as well, as Sayer is down there directly facing off against him for the test. Sayer starts doing that thing where he's saying all the stuff he shouldn't, but if it's in the efforts of awakening these powers in Leo, then it's worth it. He's like, who cares about the Dark Signers? Let them win. Destroy Satellite. I'm just worried about my powerful psychic army of duelists, and Akiza was just a preview of their abilities to make the creature's powers from the cards come alive. And he's doing all of this because of the way that society has treated psychics throughout history. When Leo claps back saying that Akiza is supposed to be like a superhero similar to Yusei, you know, how he views all of them, Sayer laughs at that and claims that Akiza doesn't even know the real deal with what Arcadia's all about, purposefully keeping her in the dark and feeding her lies. Luckily, Akiza can't hear what all's being said by Sayer, because, you know, that'd be awkward, huh? Anyway, these two get into a duel, and from the attack sent his way, Leo's feeling real pain from it all, as Sayer is really trying to test him, saying Leo will thank him in the end for what he's helping draw out from deep inside. As Leo gets more emotional with his dueling, Sayer is happy to see it, wanting this to come out to help trigger any powers that could be there. We do get to see Leo get out his power tool dragon, so that's cool, but Sayer here pushes back even harder, having his Thought Ruler Archfiend come out, and thanks to his face down card Battle Teleportation, he can attack Leo directly, defeating him and giving him a failing grade as Leo utters an apology to Luna before passing out. But there may be something more to him after all, as we end this battle on a shot of Power Tool Dragon's eye looking down at Leo in a concerned fashion. So what could that mean? What? I don't know yet either. Back with Yusei, we see him waking up with Martha greeting him and explaining that all that people have left in the satellite is hope, and he and his friends are that hope. Martha is this caretaker figure that helps the orphan children of the satellite, and she gives this advice to Yusei about him needing to stop trying to handle everything on his own. He has friends that are willing to follow him to the ends of the earth, and together they can accomplish taking down this threat to the satellite and, well, you know, the whole world. She tells him to stop riding solo, and also to officially make peace with Jack and have him as a friend on the same side again. But honestly, Martha, things were kind of heading in that way anyway, as we've seen with Jack's own arc that he's been going through.
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's.
Signing back on.
Welcome to the Carly filler episode that takes us into the mind of Carly and her place in everything that's going on. She's currently struggling with what she's going to do with her career, as we see that after the events of the previous episode, Jack told her she needs to not be a part of this because it's going to get really dangerous, and not only that, but it'll keep going deeper and getting darker, and she shouldn't have any part in that. Jack does this in a way where he's masking some protective feelings from her, with the Japanese version of this moment more explicitly showing those feelings, but I think it can still be felt here too. He's harsh in his words about calling her a paparazzi and not wanting her around, but you can tell it's just one of those things that people do when they try to push someone away and act a bit mean to make sure that they do stay away. Most of this episode has little dialogue changes that make the responses to certain situations different compared to the Japanese version, but regardless, Jack promises to help give her a story when it's all over, but for now, she should be safe and far away from all of this. We can tell Carly is feeling something more than just wanting to be a journalist around him, crying to herself that she doesn't know how to express to Jack that it's not just about the story she's after anymore. She's having a bit of a meltdown over Jack leaving her, full on feeling like her heart was broken as she bawls her eyes out. To snap herself out of this, she decides to throw herself back into her work, figuring that she'll continue looking into the Crimson Dragon stuff. Her first stop is getting some help from the world's biggest dark magician girl and girl wizards in general fan to learn about the rest of the signers. Seeing that Akiza and Luna also bear the marks, she decides to dig deep into Akiza and start there for her investigation, and through this, her information on the Arcadia movement reveals that Misty, that odd fortune-telling model we saw earlier, is somehow a part of this. On the inside of the Arcadia building, Akiza seems to be in two worlds. One, being very loyal to the movement, trying to reassure Luna that Leo will be fine and that all is good here, but claiming things about them being abandoned by others to be true like they were for her, but Luna says that's not true. And two, the other world that she's in, is her still pushing back against Sayer on their belief, wanting to help Leo get free because he isn't a psychic, but Sayer wants him to join in the efforts of it helping get Luna to join alongside him. Luna calls out to the ancient fairy dragon, having a connection with her real quick as the dragon tells her that she is still bound by dark and sinister forces to this other dimension and can't really help in any way. But the dragon offers Luna a way to possibly change this, saying that one of her servants is struggling deep in the shadows, but if Luna can find them and free him from this curse, then possibly the two of them can help break the seal holding her in this other dimension. All Luna gets told is that this person's name is Regulus, with no clue about how to find him. Anyway, Carly ends up going to see Misty, who welcomes her into her luxurious place of residence, and right away reads her face to say that she seems like a girl who's in love. Man, she really clocked her, huh? Aside from that, Carly brings up the Arcadia stuff, to which Misty replies saying she never officially was a part of their movement, but they took her younger brother from her, so she has a reason to, you know, not like them. It's a pretty good reason. It's almost the same as what's happening with with Leo and Luna here a bit. Through more of this conversation, it seems that there could be someone in the Arcadia movement who has ties to the higher-ups running the city that allow them to operate in the way that they do without being investigated and or shut down. All Misty knows is that Arcadia is lying about whatever they say, and that they shouldn't be trusted. To continue on the investigation, Carly sneaks into the Arcadia building disguised as a janitor, and you know what? She's really good at sneaking into places like this. Good perk for her in this type of job, I guess. Back with Akiza, Sayer tells her that she is going to become the living symbol of the Arcadia movement, wanting her to be the face of indoctrination, I mean introduction, to bring more lost souls into the movement. Once Akiza and Sayer finish their meeting, Carly is able to get into his office to clean it as she accidentally finds a secret room behind a bookcase filled with a computer and a bunch of files everywhere. But Sayer feels something off. He's got like a spidey sense but in a psychic type of way, and excuses himself from Akiza, saying he has to deal with a little rodent problem. Everyone who was listed as going missing for the last several years all seem to be here in the files, but then she finds one page about Rex Goodwin, catching her off guard, but before she can read it, Sayer appears, catching her doing this, and tells her that since she's seen what she's seen, that he can't just, let her leave, but in the spirit of being a good sport, he tosses her a duel disc and allows her to have a fighting chance, which is big for Carly because we haven't really seen her duel at all yet. Well, aside from that time she helped Jack, which in remembering leads her to fantasize about becoming great so that they can become a champion tag team dueling married couple, and look, they even have a baby. That's Jack Jr. right there. Back to reality, however, she's in the duel now, summoning these little chibi fairy-like characters that she's able to then power up as he summons, does he ever put that arm down or, whatever, I'm moving on. Sayer is able to break her strategy right away, sending in an attack that does real damage to her as she almost gets sent flying through a window. He threatens that she'll just become another missing person, just one more cold case that doesn't get solved, and honestly, this feels pretty dark. 5D's really said, nah, this is a more messed up version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not Season 0 messed up, but closer to that than not in a lot of ways. Sayer claims that Sector Security can't touch them as long as he knows and holds the truth about Rex. So boom, Carly, there's your answer for why Arcadia is seemingly untouchable. And since this dude thinks he's about to, silence Carly permanently, he just starts telling her this secret, saying that Rex is actually from the satellite. What? And that's only the tip of the iceberg of what other secrets are hiding about Rex. Then Sawyer finishes her off, sending her flying through the window out of the building as she starts falling down towards the ground, remembering the warning Misty gave her back at that movie premiere about a dark path that she will take and how she will basically be doomed. Thanks, Misty. Appreciate that. At least, you gave us some tea eventually, so how could I ever be scared of you touching my face and telling me I'm as good as dead? Anyway, as she falls to the ground, we see her fall into this purple smoke, which was just kind of like a sensor because originally she was just falling towards the ground and, that's too scary for kids. But before we get into more of that, we also did get some updates this episode from the Dark Signers, with Callan returning back to base and the main Dark Signer named Roman questioning why Callan didn't finish Yusei off when he had the chance. Callan claims that he did something better, and that's destroying Yusei's self-confidence and believing it will fester inside of him to eventually tear him apart. All of that may be true because we do see Yusei questioning if he has what it takes to take down the Dark Signers, so yeah, maybe Callan was onto something. While we see that Yusei's dual runner still needs quite the repair job, Jax's is fixed up as well and seems better than ever. He even names it Phoenix Whirlwind, so that's cool. Oh, well, we should probably move on because right now we're just playing Schrodinger's Carly. If we never watch the next episode, she neither falls to her death or is saved. Everybody wins! Or nobody wins. Well, Carly doesn't win, that's for sure. Now time to jump back into Carly's filler episode, part 2, where while falling, she is only thinking about Jack, showing just how in love with the guy she is. But then she soon notices that she didn't smack into the ground. Something essentially has caught her as she's in this purple smoke. Then she starts glowing, the whole city starts shaking, she has no idea what's happening, but maybe Misty does, because she says it's time. And we even see all these other characters reacting to what's happening. But this isn't an earthquake, as we then see a new Nazca line appear right in the middle of New Domino City, this time representing the hummingbird as Carly, in a very mellowed out zombie-like state, appears back in Sayer's office at the top of the building, catching him off guard as to how that would even be possible, as we see on her arm is the mark of the hummingbird, claiming that the Dark Signers essentially just recruited her, somehow. somehow. Then she just has this random transformation, giving her a full-on Dark Signer's outfit, dual disc, and a new vibe to her look in general. She even gets the, darkened eye thing going on. I love how all of a sudden she's all like, I've changed since the last time we dueled 5 minutes ago. I've grown up since becoming a Dark Signer. Like, I get it, but also it's kind of silly. That's like when someone gets canceled and then right away posts an apology video like this. I am so sorry. Hold on one second. All right, that's better. Now stay quiet. I know that I've been doing what I've been doing for quite some time, but I promised in the last 5 hours since I've been canceled, I've changed. I'm a new me. I promise. I'm not the same as the old me. Please, I'm sorry. No, it's okay, Schmookums. It's okay. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. As they right away get into another duel, Sayer synchro summons magical android with 2400 attack points as he taunts Carly, wanting to see her use her new Dark Signer powers. Carly, though, quickly returns the favor of feeling pain in a duel, hurting Sayer worse than anything he's ever felt from the power of all of it. She's ready to really take down Sayer and send him to the netherworld, and honestly, it really does sound less threatening than being told you're being sent to the Shadow Realm, but I won't let the nostalgia blind me. I'm sure the netherworld is scary too. But as far as this cult v cult battle going on, there's about to be another one that starts in this episode as well. 5D's is really just all these weird different groups and organizations going after and hurting each other in some sort of fashion, if you get what I'm saying. Also going on in the Arcadia building is Misty coming around and running into Akiza, firstly surprising her, then questioning her about really being the duelist known as the Black Rose, wanting to know if she really is a witch or not. She claims that she's been looking forward to whatever she's about to do because she wants her brother back, and Akiza's like, what do I have to do with that? But Misty doesn't buy a word she's saying, instantly challenging her to a duel, saying this will be a chance for her to test her new powers that she was offered, revealing that she herself is in fact also a Dark Signer.
What?
She shows off that her mark represents the lizard, as the Nazca line for it forms right on top of the hummingbird one, making this a double event, which this is pretty darn cool. I'm enjoying this immensely. It really feels like the stakes and danger of it all is all rising. The rest of the regular signers feel their marks activating and see this event going on, with Jack specifically seeing this go down at the Arcadia building and heading there, but not before doing this. As Akiza gets into her duel with Misty, she's able to get out her Black Rose Dragon on her first turn, which would be menacing for many, but Misty really keeps that stoic model face on even when she's in her Dark Signer mode. She's able to see just how Akiza could have been chosen to be a signer, wondering if her story is somewhat similar to her own in any way, as we get a flashback to Misty being in the emergency room. What for? Who knows, but it was critical, and all she wanted to live for was finding and saving her brother, leading to her making some sort of deal with the Dark Lizard entity. In the duel, Misty then gets out Reptile Gorgon, using its ability to turn the Black Rose Dragon into stone, leaving it frozen in place to not be able to attack or defend. Misty teases her with the fact that Sayer is in a shadow duel as well, claiming that he's about to lose and so will she. But that's for the next episode to decide, right? Now, for other moments in this episode, we also get this random shot of Greiger in the back of a facility transport van for some reason. I wonder what that's all leading to. But from the destructive shaking from the Nazca lines in general, we also see that Tanner and Yanagi are able to escape their imprisonment within the building, as they quickly want to find and rescue Leo and Luna from the building before anything bad happens. While Misty's revenge here is pretty interesting, I think Carly's whole arc here has been pretty great. Seeing Carly's story go from this clumsy but determined reporter who builds a genuine care for Jack Atlas to essentially losing that and feeling helpless and heartbroken really made it a good twist for when this big moment happens where she is turned into a Dark Signer. Her drive to get back into the investigation only led her into more danger. Her connection to Misty became this touch of influence. That dark, dangerous path led to her nearly dying until the dark path saved her, allowing her to technically start knowing herself better than ever before, just like Misty had told her. I just think it was all set up pretty well, and Carly's story continues to unfold in more interesting ways than her just being this random reporter side character. Her story is kind of a tragedy, and you feel for her, understanding the decisions she made and all of the feelings she's gone through. It just really sucks you in to care for who she is and what will happen to her in the end. Also, she's voiced by Veronica Taylor, the original voice of Ash Ketchum, but she also was the original voice for Ash's mom, and sometimes that's all I hear when Carly speaks. Even though this is the third part to Carly's filler episodes, which yes, I am being cheeky about, I'm sorry, these are just jokes, we are still going to get lots of Misty and Akiza having their duel as well. Speaking of that, Misty blames a lot of her brother's disappearance on Akiza because the last time she saw him, he was fanboying over her, wanting to join Arcadia because of her, and this has led to Misty believing that Akiza does have something to do with this. After Misty destroys Akiza's Black Rose Dragon, Akiza ends up just bringing it right back, and this time using the strategy of it being brought back to wipe the field, including itself. Akiza does try pleading with Misty about truly not knowing anything about her brother, and that she would tell Misty what she did know if she did know anything, but she doesn't buy it for 1 second. Misty really goes in on Akiza and her out-of-control ways that she does duel, recklessly hurting people with the power of the cards because she doesn't care about anyone but herself. After Akiza tries to rebuttal about her being a good person and that the ones at the matches at the Fortune Cup, for example, were all calling her a witch, Misty hits back by asking her if that means she feels they deserved what happened to them, both the duelists she battled and those in attendance who could have been hurt from the stadium taking damage from her attacks, which freezes Akiza for a moment to question what if Misty is right about that. Misty asks how she couldn't remember her brother, someone who was such a fan that they would want to join the movement just because of that, wondering if he just didn't pass the entrance exam and that was that, and from there was just never heard from again. But Akiza says that she has told everyone to consider the movement. This brother of Misty wasn't a special case where she was targeting him specifically or anything. She does this because of the worry that if they are experiencing the same stuff she did growing up, then maybe they could find their place in this world here like she feels she has. Misty's just ready to send her to the Netherworld, saying it was her directly who told her brother to leave his family, saying that she stole him from them, so now there is no more time for reptile dysfunction, as she brings out the big one, dark synchro summoning the earthbound immortal Kokoraya. As we then see all of these people from around the city turn into energy orbs to feed the summoning of this creature. Then we get to see the big lizard pull a Godzilla and be holding onto the side of the building, of course in all of its 3D animated glory, and tell me why it just kinda looks like Randall from Monsters Inc. mixed with a Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. But yeah, what's been going on with, Carly and her duel with Sayer? Let's check in on that. Well, Sayer is still in the same position he was in last time here, but he's trying to push himself to figure out how to win this thing in the efforts of wanting to get Carly on his side to do Arcadia's bidding. And then, wait, dude, please stop sending out this card. Can you not see what you're doing? Jeez, I thought this was supposed to be a family show. But remember, this is all a double event here, just like in Pacific Rim. As Carly then brings out the Hummingbird, Earthbound Immortal Asilapiscu, as it smashes into the building to defeat Sayer, knocking him all the way down to his presumed death. But of course, we just see purple smoke, so maybe that means he'll become a Dark Signer too. Who knows? But what I know is that this building is now becoming very unstable from this attack, which also stops Akiza and Misty's duel as Misty teases seeing her again at some point, as everyone just, needs to clear the building. Jack then pulls up to the scene, being able to help save Akiza from the building, but when inside, he finds Carly's broken glasses, now being worried about her being somewhere in the building and hurt, but there is no sign of her and no more time. They have to leave the building or they could get seriously injured or, crushed. However, on the roof, we do see Carly there as she's being snapped back into her regular self, filled with confusion for what's going on and what she's done, as she is then greeted by Misty, who explains to her that she shouldn't be afraid of her destiny, saying she was chosen just like she was, as at the moment of the end of their individual lives, they were saved by the Immortals. There was some sort of unfinished business that they needed to say or do, so the Immortals lent them their powers to keep them around in this world, but they are technically no longer a part of it, as they are on borrowed time that is meant to serve the Immortals. Misty tells her that she must figure out what her unfinished business is and what it can do to benefit the Dark Signers. Like, imagine being told, hey, you're dead, but you're technically not dead, but also you might just be evil right now, you're welcome. Also, go figure out what you didn't finish in life. It'll be important. And just in case you were wondering, Tanner and Yanagi end up saving Leo and Luna, by the way, and to keep them all safe when the duels are getting intense, Luna's marking creates an energy shield around them, so that's a cool new power. It's kind of like the bubble she was in that moment from the last season. As for the whole Greiger thing, we see that this other Dark Signer comes to his rescue, introducing himself as Devak and claiming that he knows all about what Rex did to him and his people, offering him to come with him to help him start getting his revenge. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they are building up this season. I feel like they've already squeezed so much into not even half a season yet, and there's still just so much more to come. So I'm just surprised that none of this really feels too overwhelming at the moment.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
So when we return to see the aftermath of everything that happened, we see that the Arcadia building is still standing, albeit barely, but it sits in the epicenter of what happened, while the areas surrounding it that were in the Nazca lines are completely destroyed, with Akiza having all eyes on her for being the main person who was there to witness everything, but for now, she is at the hospital and in some sort of coma. We then see that the senator and his wife pull up to the hospital, not giving any comment to the media, as it's revealed that these are her parents, the ones that we saw in the flashback from last season. But unlike how things were made to look, or how they might be, they show up with worry about her, truly caring if she's okay, to which we find out that she's in this coma from an emotional response to things that went on, and not from physical damage or being physically hurt. Her mother breaks down, crying over how they treated her in the past, and feels like they pushed her away, as Jack, Leo, and Luna are there trying to figure out what they can do. Jack ends up having an idea, thinking he knows someone who can help and reach out to her heart to bring her out of this, and that would be none other than Yusei. In the meantime, we see Yusei working on his duel runner, with Blister catching him up to speed with what happened in New Domino City and the state that Akiza is in. He tells him that she could use a friend right now, much like how Yusei needed his friends after his duel with Callan, but Yusei is still lacking his confidence, claiming he'd only make things worse for her. But then Daddy shows up to ask Yusei for help, pleading to Yusei that he's trying to make things better, wanting to fix things between him and his daughter. We get this flashback to when he was freshly in office as a senator, and the stress from the job taking all the attention away from his daughter is something he was struggling with, especially when it's coming down to decisions about funding the energy reactor or stopping to make sure he gets a present for his daughter's birthday. We see him getting home late from work, where Akiza is passed out in the living room waiting to eat cake that she refused to eat until her dad was home. Completely feeling awful, he then puts her to bed, promising to make things up to her as he leaves a little present next to her to wake up to. It turned out to be her very own Duel Monsters deck. And of course, she wants to have a duel with her dad, but work once again gets in the way of any of that, as he has to go away for a month to work on the energy project. Akiza took that personally, running away crying, telling him that this isn't what dads are supposed to do, and saying to never come back. Over time, he found the best balance he could. He knew he couldn't make a little girl understand the importance of the work he was doing, but any free time that he did have, he spent with her, dueling, and this was something that was working for their relationship and was pretty sustainable for a while. That is until a moment where Akiza was getting extremely skilled at dueling, and when one of their duels was interrupted with work because something was going on with the reactor, Akiza didn't want to deal with that, saying that Akiza isn't here anymore and sending in an attack that this time does actual damage, sending her dad flying back into the wall, leading into the flashback we somewhat saw last season. It was that moment that the Crimson Dragon left its mark on her arm, leading to her freaking out and begging her dad for help, but in this moment of being scared, he tells her to not come any closer, scolding her for doing what she just did and calling her a monster, before you can see the instant regret on his face from saying it. The mother tells him not to call her that, but the damage was already done. She starts bawling her eyes out, questioning if she is a monster, and on that day, the Black Rose was officially born. He knew he did wrong, and as time went on, things only got worse for Akiza, leading to all the other problems she faced around others and how dueling other kids would result in them getting hurt by her monsters too. Duel Academy didn't work out for her either, only making her feel more alone and building up this hatred of society. One night, she ran away from Duel Academy, coming home and seeing what seemed like her parents enjoying their time without her, causing her to become extremely emotional, as he calls this the night he lost his daughter, because after this broken look that was in her eyes, she ends up attacking the house with her monsters as an emotional response before running away. It wasn't until this hospital visit at the start of the episode that they even saw their daughter again. We then see the flashbacks from Akiza's mind in the coma about how Sayer indoctrinated her into Arcadia, giving her a found family and purpose, sure, but all for the wrong manipulative reasons. The senator tells Yusei that Jack believes that he can help Akiza, saying that he thinks they need to duel again, and through his voice, it'll have the power to help her out of this coma. So, like, what, are they supposed to have like a spiritual duel on another plane to make this duel happen, or what? Yusei's self-confidence is so gone that he's being weird and won't say yes to helping, and it just feels so wrong for him as a character to be like this, you know? Luckily, Martha knocks some sense into him about going and doing the right thing, telling him to go be with and help his friends. He'll need them just as much as they'll need him if this whole end of the world thing is happening. Then Martha makes him blush by saying that after everything's all over, he can then take her out on a date. And the dad is just standing there like, are we really making jokes about dating my daughter while she's in an emotional traumatic-induced coma? When Yusei gets to the hospital, he wipes a tear off her face, saying he's here for her, and then their marks start to glow and hey, this works! She's out of the coma! Hooray! No duel needed! Well, maybe. The first thing she sees after Yusei when waking up is her parents, specifically her father, as she goes off on him and saying that Sayer was more of a father to her than he ever was, turning to Yusei asking what she's supposed to do now, where's she supposed to go? She's already gone through all this intense brainwashing at Arcadia to forget and move on from the past, causing her to grab her duel disc and face off against Yusei, so there is going to be a duel after all. Akiza says that she is going to erase him from her memories as well. Ouch, I felt that one. Yusei calmly tells her that if she needs to duel for her to understand who her friends are, then he's right here for her. But she still blames Yusei for messing up her current life, and he's all like, "What?" Yusei tells her that this duel is for her. It's the way he got through to her last time, as they now officially get started. Quickly, Akiza does her strategy of getting Black Rose Dragon out, making the power of it be felt in the tiny space that they're all in. She equips it with the spell card Thorn of Malice, giving it 3,000 total attack points, as she says that she was treated like a monster, so now it's time for her to act as one. And despite Yusei trying to tell her that she isn't, she says it's too late for any of that, thinking that at one point he truly did care about her, but believes now that it's only for the mark on her arm, and that she'll never duel for him no matter what fate the world has coming. Jeez, this was a very traumatic episode. Like, the majority of the runtime was just pain. Pure pain! Akiza in her duel with Yusei is of course going hard as usual. We even see Yusei getting cut on his cheek from one of her attacks, but he is trying to reach out to her, saying that the mark on her arm means that she isn't alone, and that they are all in this thing together like at the end of High School Musical, but she stops him, knowing what she's doing, knowing he likes to be the hero that steps up and saves people, but she claims that the only one who ever got her was Sayer, thinking of him as her only real family and not her parents, only getting more and more emotional overall to the point where she removes the rod from her hair to let loose her powers. To make it a clashing of the dragons once more, Yusei brings out his Stardust Dragon, and honestly, everyone is thankful that he does, because when the attacks almost hurt all the others in the room, Stardust Dragon jumps in the way to protect them. While this is all happening, her father is going back and forth in his head about his part to play and how Akiza is now. She was never a monster until he made her out to be one by turning his back on her back then. Yusei isn't going to give up in this fight to save Akiza though, no matter how intense it all is, telling her he doesn't do that to his friends and he isn't going anywhere. Then she's all like, "I'm your friend?" As if it were a shock to her, but you know, a more appropriate response would have been, "What?" Akiza still can't buy into what is being said, because the last time she believed that someone was going to be there for her and that everything was going to be okay, excluding Sayer, was her own father, who then afterwards sent her to Duel Academy as she felt that he was just shipping her off to go there and be someone else's problem to deal with. In the middle of the duel, her father jumps into it, standing directly in between them and almost taking a full-on attack from Akiza, but it gives him a chance to try and speak with her, to truly apologize and admit where he's been coming from this whole time, why he was wrong and how he was scared and didn't know what to do, feeling like a failure back then because he was powerless in being able to truly help his own daughter. Akiza still isn't hearing any of this, thinking that he's only saying this to make it all about him, but even when the attacks keep coming in, he won't move. And she's about to have the game-winning move here at any moment with just how intense she's playing and how powerful the energy around her is swirling. Yusei then understands that this power is so intense because she doesn't know how to control it. This isn't her fault, it's just reacting to the heavy emotions that she's having. Her father starts pushing through the energy to get to her, pleading for a second chance. He wants her to come home, he wants to make things right, and Yusei backs him up by saying that people deserve second chances, especially when they mean what they say, as he fully believes what her father is saying. He feels like a failure of a father for turning his back on his daughter and understands the hurt and pain that caused her. So if being hurt by her now is what it takes, then he's not standing down or getting to safety. His daughter and how she feels is more important to him. Yusei tells her that she's lucky in the fact that she has a real family here, alluding to his own struggles of no longer having his parents and never really knowing them. He tells her that he's going to risk everything to show her that he cares about her and that he's really her friend, continuing on in the duel by then going back and forth with their dragons, but as her powers are really starting to hurt her father, she starts feeling something towards him. She begs him to get out of the way, knowing her powers are out of control and screaming that she doesn't want to be doing this. But before her father was about to get seriously hurt, her underlying care for him helps her be able to essentially catch and stop her powers, saving him as everything calms down. After she realizes that she was able to do that and her father properly apologizes to her, she tells Yusei to end this duel because she doesn't want to fight anymore. With a smile on her face, she awaits the final blow coming from Stardust Dragon, and while she lost the duel, she gained a whole lot more for herself in return. Friends, family, and control over her powers. Well, at least some control. But we get this really emotional moment between father and daughter as they hug one another and have this understanding that there is still this love there. All her dad wants to do is make things right and take his accountability for how he handled everything poorly in the past, wanting to prove to her that he means what he is saying today. He loves and cares for her and wants his daughter back. Yusei extends his friendship to her properly and asks her to be a part of the signers group officially to help save the world, to which she would like that. And yay, a happy ending, which, whew, thank God. There have been so many traumatic themes non-stop here that I need some good and pleasant stuff to happen for a change. Or, I don't know, I'll just start drinking some bleach. No, literally, see? The brand new Bleach 1000 Year Blood War inspired GamerSupps flavor. It's strawberry flavored. If you know, you know. But did you also know that you can head over to GamerSupps using the link in my description or using my code FRINGE for 10% off? Not just once, but every time you order. That's right, so whether you want some energy or some sleek merch, or if you're just having troubles going to sleep, GamerSupps has got you completely covered. And right now's the perfect time to save with more GamerSupps savings because it's their biggest sale of the year, Christmas in July. So check out all the extra promotions going on because this is the best time to hoard up if you've been waiting. Supporting GamerSupps with my code FRINGE directly helps support the channel, so a big thank you to everyone who already does. Plus, if you just want to give any little bit of it a try, you get free samples sent directly to you, no credit card required. Shout out to GamerSupps for always supporting the channel and myself, and thank you to everyone who is supporting GamerSupps and supporting me. It means a lot. Thank you so much. Now let's go back to revving it up, baby. So now with all the trauma worked through for Akiza, we have other trauma for her to work through, as right away we see Mina showing Akiza what Sayer was actually up to with Arcadia, explaining that he was a manipulator that would take duelists with powers like Akiza, and if they were strong, they stayed around, and if not, they would disappear. We see on a monitor a kid being put through tests, and while Mina explains that the kid isn't in any pain, the Japanese version tells us otherwise. He's being tortured, essentially. That's messed up. His whole plan was to build this army of psychic duelists to take over the world. Why? I don't know. For fun, probably. She's thinking all about what Misty was saying to her the other day, and wondering if her brother is one of the kids who went missing then. Akiza is conflicted about what Sayer did because the Sayer that she knew gave her purpose, a place to live, a found family, but in the same breath was doing all these horrible things. Yusei helps her out a bit, making sure she knows that her feelings are valid, Yusei. He makes sure that she knows that they are friends and will work together to defeat the Dark Signers, offering her more peace when it comes to having purpose and friendships, feeling like she has a place to belong with others who care about her. For real this time. After this, all of the signers, and Leo, head over to Goodwin's mansion, and while Yusei can't fully trust Rex for all that he's done just to test if he was a signer, he's the only one who really seems to know what's going on. So in the efforts of, saving the world, yeah, he's going to give Rex that second chance. For now. Leo is definitely feeling left out, but it's really sweet that Luna sticks up for him being around, wanting him to be a part of saving the world with her, and you love to see it. Anyway, Rex brings them all down to his special secret room that he brought Jack to last season, as we see the same stair pillar structure and the glowing Crimson Dragon symbol around it. Then once all their marks start glowing, the Crimson Dragon appears around its stairway altar, as Rex explains that the dragon had instilled its power in each of the signers and has been influencing their lives, leading all the way up to this moment of them being together now. He continues to explain that each of them fill a specific role in the mosaic of the Crimson Dragon's dueling strategy, as he starts calling things out about them, like having Luna talk about that when she duels, she sometimes gets brought into this other dimension, essentially, a spirit world for the duel monsters themselves. So whether it's what she can do or what Akiza can do with her psychic powers, or the bond and power that Jack and Yusei have that allowed them to see the past or even the future during their battle, all of them are here for the same thing, to be on the side of light, the side of life, the side of the Crimson Dragon. The spirit of humanity called them all here, hoping they could stop the end of the world. And after all that info dump, Leo questions when the fifth signer is going to appear, as Rex says that for their safety, their identity is kept a secret, but at the time that they need to show up, he promises they will appear along with the full power of the Crimson Dragon. Then, as a way to talk to the characters that don't know any of this yet, as well as catch the audience back up on the story thus far, Rex goes over the history of everything again. Basically, the dark power of the shadows is trying to take out the signers before the dark army can rise again properly, so they won't have any problems doing so, leading to why the dark signers have been infecting the world person by person and getting into duels with the signers. Because they deal in negative energy, they are drawn to despair and of course negative emotions, which is why we see targets for them like Callan, Carly, and Misty, who all have their own different versions of trauma, anger, sadness, and more that draws this negative energy towards them. The more despair rises, the more powerful the shadows get, and thanks to what happened at the Arcadia building in the aftermath of destruction and loss, New Domino City is filled with despair, making it an even easier opening for the darkness to seep through the cracks. Luckily, the people being sacrificed in order for these immortals to be summoned aren't lost forever, but they won't return until the shadows are defeated, allegedly. But wait, there's more! Apparently, these shadows have another weapon that is more frightening than anything else. The Earthbound Immortal Beasts. Yeah, we know that already. You made it seem like there was going to be something new revealed here, something more than just that, but sure, all right, man. Thanks, Rex. Anyway, at this point and from now on, the signers need to take this so seriously by committing 100% of themselves, mind, body, and soul to this with no turning back. All of them have their doubts and worries, but they know they must do this for what's all at stake. Jack does call out Rex for there being something that he's not telling them all, which Rex confirms that is the case, but he's not fully budging on what he won't tell them. And then he starts saying how impossible it is to face some of these dark signers, and saying the probability of defeating them in duels is low, so hey, thanks. This isn't really a great pep talk to boost morale here, buddy. But he does say that together they all have to take a stand and try, not promising them the best outcome of the world being saved coming true, but their best efforts of doing so are what count here. They can't back down or give up. He claims that every war has its casualties, and some of them in the room may be lost to the netherworld because of it, but he hopes that they can all look into their hearts and make the decision to still take a stand against these dark forces. So aside from this episode being 78.67% just a recap, much like these videos, am I right? Everything is getting all set up for our main group here, but are they actually really ready for this?
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's.
Signing back on.
We get a little check-in with Crow, who is looking into the giant crater in the satellite to find the hideout of the Dark Signers, wanting to go ahead and start taking them on instead of waiting for Yusei and the others to come around. But when he arrives, he finds Lazar walking out of the crater and begins chasing after him as if he's a Dark Signer, beginning this weird misunderstanding between the two, but Lazar won't spill any of the reasons for why he's there or anything about Yusei and the others because of the classified nature of it all. So yeah, these two get into a random duel over it, and it's the first time that we've seen Lazar actually duel? That's pretty cool. What's not cool is Crow saying the stupid birds of a feather flock together line again. Like he even says it as if he's annoyed saying it. This duel is whatever. Crow and Lazar just keep going back and forth about if Lazar is a Dark Signer or not, and regardless of whatever he was doing there on behalf of Rex, Crow doesn't buy it and is just over eager to stop the bad guys in general. Plus it doesn't even all get resolved this episode, but who cares? We should check back in on the others anyway. Yusei is definitely in his head a bit still, especially over Callan, with Jack coming around to help him get through this, and by that I mean he punches him in the stomach, and then he punches him again, to hopefully knock some sense into him, and while we see the same shot of a stomach punch, it's better for Yusei because in the Japanese version, he gets punched in the face. In fact, they get more physical with each other in the Japanese version by both hitting one another in the face. But in general, Jack starts laying out what Yusei has done to him, how he came and took everything away from him, but he did it with no fear. He was sure of himself, as Jack now questions what happened to that version of Yusei, because he doesn't see him right now. After a bit of time to reflect, Yusei tells Jack that his words really got to him, with Jack telling him that he can't be stuck here in thought over Callan when he needs to be thinking about all of his other friends and their lives being on the line. Jack's also in deep thought about doing this all for Carly as well, but there's so much at stake here, and he just thinks he can fight to save her or get revenge for what happened to her, not knowing that she's a Dark Signer herself now. I think this whole interaction between the two was very needed, and it's Jack's own way of showing that he cares and he's still friendly with Yusei in his own way. We see a flashback of Akiza talking to her parents after what all happened, where she commits to using her power powers for good to help people, especially after all she's done with her powers to hurt others. So that's big for her, and now a part of the driving force to be a part of this whole thing. Leo and Luna have this other thing going on where Leo has felt only like a guest in the presence of the others because he isn't a signer, leading to him telling Luna that they should part ways and he shouldn't be with them for all this stuff. He explains that since dueling Sayer, he realizes that he isn't special like the others. He doesn't have what it takes to be like the rest of them. He doesn't have what heroes are made of inside of him. The two of them have this breakthrough moment where Leo expresses that he originally thought Luna was holding him back, always being sick, and since he looked out for her, he couldn't practice dueling and get better. But after she feels she already knows that and starts apologizing, he stops her, saying that's not the point. He was wrong, and he thinks she's amazing. She has cool powers and is going to be a part of saving the world, and he champions that for her. He feels like he's the actual burden and will just weigh everything down, but Luna tells him that she basically wants him there because she's more scared than she's ever been. She tells him that he's her brother, and that makes him her hero. And I think I'm going to cry. Why does this show not take its foot off the brakes with stuff like this, man? Jeez. Well, in the end, all of the signers come together as a group more ready than ever to face the end of the world head on. So the duel is still going on with Crow and Lazar, and we can see Lazar is using his futuristic iPad to have predictions made on what Crow would be doing based on previous duel patterns they have on his profile in their system, with Crow then figuring out how to mess with him over this by pretending to do certain things in the duel, and with his fake reactions, giving him a decent fighting chance against Lazar. But Lazar is just annoyed at even having to do any of this. It's all just a waste of time to him. Anyway, Crow's got his synchro-summoned Blackwing armed wing out and sets it all up for an attack.
Slice right through your big D.
Defense! It means defense! Their battle gets interrupted by some ground shaking that Lazar is worried about, saying it's the Dark Signers, and maybe Crow actually believes him when he says he isn't one now. From the crater, a big blast of energy shoots out, most likely negative energy, as one could assume, but Lazar isn't waiting to stick around and find out, running away and saying that Crow won the duel and it doesn't matter, taking off in the funniest way possible to escape. I mean, come on, when's the last time you saw someone make a singular balloon getaway? Crow rides out of the area as well, as this big dark smoke cloud starts layering itself over the satellite, essentially putting this dark dome over it where it seems that everyone inside of it has vanished. Back in New Domino City, the citizens are not getting their answers as to what's been going on, causing a civil uproar and pushback from the citizens against sector security. Instead of dealing with the public right now, Rex claims that he needs to speak to his troops before the signers are sent into the satellite to deal with all of this, mentioning that he may not get another chance to do so. And that all sounds pretty ominous, you know? He wishes that he can lend them a hand, removing his glove to show off his robot hand again, while thinking to himself that his hand only knows one future, continuing on with all the cryptic stuff that he likes to say. When Rex does address them though, he tells them that they all need to deal with the Ener-D reactor, the one Yusei's father built, as this will be a way for him to help heal the mistakes of the past. The mission here is to defeat the Dark Signers, find the reactor and reverse its function in the hopes of releasing positive energy and sealing away the Shadow Army again. Then Trudge shows up as the pilot who will be bringing them over, and I guess there's this whole other love triangle, or more like love trapezoid going on, because Jack is into Carly, causing Mina to get jealous because she's into him, but Trudge apparently is into Mina, who also might be into him, or might just know that he likes her and is using that to her advantage. This is all starting to feel like a TLC reality show, and I love it. Sorry, I watched too much 90 Day Fiancé and its ever-expanding world of spin-offs. Is that a video for another day? Perhaps. Before Yusei steps one foot on the aircraft, he tells Rex that if they do this and accomplish their goals here, then he has to promise to finish building the bridge to connect New Domino City and the satellite together. And he won't go do this unless he agrees to that, wanting the people of the satellite to have a choice to be free. Rex is all like, I don't know, there's a lot of logistics with that may not be good for the citizens here. But after more pushback from Yusei, he says that he'll build the bridge, but I didn't hear him say he promises, or even do a pinky promise, and you can never break those. You can't, it's the law. With all of that squared away, our group of signers head towards the scary Dark Dome of Evil, with Yusei seemingly being more confident to do whatever he can to defeat the Dark Signers, so that's hopeful. As we head over there, we get creepy shots of the satellite being desolate. Not one person around, as we even see Crow's dual runner knocked over on its side and left there, which he would never do, so that's worrying. Yusei at the same time contemplates what his father even did in the first place. Akiza asks asks Mina to explain all about the incident, saying that it is known as Zero Reverse and was originally built by a group going by the name RRD, but of course it malfunctioned, leading to what we already saw happen to the satellite. We see how this separated part of the city became this island known as the satellite with a better visual understanding of the separation between the cities. Yusei's dad was in charge of the project, but there's not any time to worry about that right now and dig deeper. They've got a job to do as they eventually make it to Martha's place to get some answers about what's been going on with this dome of black smoke. Martha is excited to see Jack and even has him do this cringy prince greeting thing that he apparently used to do. So if you had that on your 5D's bingo card, congrats! So...
Bingo!
What? Really? Yeah, pay up. I want my prize. Let me see that. I'm not giving you anything. This is clearly BS. Come on, I'll take anything. Give me anything. Give me something. No. Please, I need something. Give me something. I said no. Please. Okay, fine. Here, take this. It's worthless anyway. I will cherish this forever. There's this one moment with Trudge where he's being very anti-satellite and not wanting to really be back here, but one of the orphaned kids around kind of has this moment of looking up to Trudge because he wants to be in sector security one day, which I feel you wouldn't because if you're from the satellite, you'd probably only have nothing but hate for them. But Trudge feels like for the first time in a while, he's not just getting crapped on, but someone respects him and thinks he's cool. We get filled into what's going on with the black fog, saying that it really affected the downtown area of satellite and everyone there vanished. But it's not just Crow to be worried about, it's all of Yusei's other friends who were there as well. But of course, there is still more time for Martha to make Yusei blush by saying that Akiza is just as pretty as he said she was. So, you know, W Martha for being a wingman. For other romantic dealings though, which is weird to focus on right now in the middle of everything else happening, but whatever, Mina confesses that she has feelings for Jack right to him, and he pulls a similar move to Han Solo and says, of course you do. Also, this was all in front of Trudge, who had just picked a flower to give to her. And what even is this show sometimes? It's so unintentionally funny to me with its timing to deal with this stuff and all of the dialogue around it. But then Martha, the wise person that she is, takes Trudge and helps him clear his mind and has him doing stuff around the house to distract him from a broken heart so he can stop dwelling on that and make himself useful. As Martha can see that one kid looks up to him. And so when he's cleaning things, the kid comes in to help lend a hand as well. She explains to Trudge that the citizens of Satellite have had to find ways of being good at coping with sadness from everything that they've been through. The kid who looks up to Trudge, Taka, lost his home in a fire, but he was so grateful to the security officers who did everything they could to help him, and he never forgot that, which is why he looks up to Trudge. Now, clearly, he's at Martha's place for a reason. That's because his parents aren't, you know, in the picture. And it's not from the fire, as in the Japanese version. His parents became victims of a robbery that went south, so yeah, truly sad stuff. But the kid deals with the sadness by putting that energy into being helpful. So this could all be a really good reality check for Trudge and how he views the satellite. Technically, the laws in place or whatever prevent those from the satellite becoming sector security, but Martha says that with how crazy the world is right now, anything can happen, and we hear Trudge thinking that it could be a good thing if it did. You could just tell how indoctrinated to the beliefs of New Domino City he is, and being here in this capacity is really starting to shatter all that he knows. I just can't believe we're kind of getting like a mini Trudge arc going on here. Trudge even made the dinner everyone eats, and all of the kids there really like it and thank him for making it. So that's just, it's so sweet. Yusei tells the kids that once this is all over and the bad guys are dealt with, that a bridge is coming to connect the cities and they can officially grow up to be anything they want, not just being restricted to being survivors in the satellite. But all the nice stuff going on is interrupted as the main dark signer named Roman appears, showing that he bears the mark of the spider. Yusei has Jack and the others make sure that the kids are okay, while he'll lead Roman somewhere else for a duel in case an immortal is summoned. You know, it's something you don't want to happen close to home. Akiza ends up going with Yusei, which is probably smart, but what's not smart is that Taka, wanting to be brave and take charge, grabs a couple other kids and claims that they want to go after the Dark Signers too since they took Crow and the others. So going to where Yusei is to help defeat Roman is their goal, and oh no, you know, this can't be good, right? So with the duel starting, the Nazca line of the spider is summoned, and when Martha realizes some of the kids are gone, she goes running towards the spider symbol in the sky, with Trudge following her. All of this tension though is ruined once Roman plays this spiderweb field spell card and Yusei goes,
This could get sticky. This could get sticky.
Anyway, Roman instantly dark synchro summons underground arachnid with 2400 attack points. Because why the heck not? If you don't like spiders, well, you won't like Roman. That's like every card he has, man. They're all spiders. Who could have guessed? Right away, he does a lot of damage to Yusei, getting a full powerful attack in to cut his life points down to only 1600. Yusei though does his thing, revs it up, but just without the dual runner since this isn't a turbo duel, and synchro summons Road Fighter with 3000 attack points. Thanks to the field spell card in play, Road Warrior is forced into defense mode after it attacks, with Roman laying out his plan and Yusei delivering us another perfect reaction clip. Man, the struggle of which to use and where to use them. But what Yusei does give us is more cringy one-liner responses, like after Roman says he'll force Yusei to dance the dance of doom, Yusei all intensely goes,
Thing is, I don't dance.
"Alright, Corbin Blue, relax." Once it seems like Yusei's strategy is working, the kids come running up to the barrier, alerting Yusei and Akiza to them being here, as they are now freaked out for their safety, and even more so when Roman plays Altar of the Bound Deity in order to start gaining Earthbound Immortal counters, and once all 4 beacons are lit, the Bound Deity will grant Roman the power to bring forth his Earthbound Immortal. Then it just cuts back to the kids crying over this, saying it was a mistake to be there, but luckily, well, hopefully luckily, Martha and Trudge are on their way there and can help somehow. Now, with the kids in the dangerous position they're in, Yusei now has to figure out a way to defeat Roman before he has the chance to summon the Earthbound Immortal. Does he have what it takes? Will Yusei pull through? What is 9 plus 10? I don't know. But what I do know is that this is officially the midway point of this season.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
Welcome to the back half of Season 2. And welcome back to this extremely important and high-stakes duel going on with Yusei facing off against Roman. When Martha and Trudge arrive on the scene, they see that 2 of the 3 boys are directly in trouble as Martha tells Yusei that he better not lose this, but uh-oh, the scary evil dude has all 4 of the altars lit. As he begins to summon his Earthbound Immortal, as Yusei is begging for a miracle to happen to save these kids, but it's like Jack can read his mind because he comes rushing in on his dual runner asking if someone ordered a miracle, as he jumps into it all to save them thanks to his mark stopping their souls from being used as a sacrifice for the summoning. This makes no difference to Roman as he continues on with his summoning, bringing out Earthbound Immortal Yuru with 3000 attack points, and yes, it's a big spider. Who would have guessed? Even as Yusei has the confidence to not back down and wants to squash this arachnid, Roman starts messing with him psychologically, saying that Yuru here is like family because the truth is that Yusei's dad helped free the Shadow Army, with him not wanting to believe that to be true, but Roman says that he overlooked all the safety precautions in favor of just getting the energy reactor up and working properly so that it can make him a millionaire as fast as possible. Roman claims he knows this because he was there working under him, but that's not even the biggest bombshell, as Roman says that he was working under him alongside his brother, Rex Goodwin.
What?
He continues on about how he and Rex saw firsthand how Yusei's father was and how the project was going, mentioning that there was this fear about it spinning in reverse and producing negative energy. Because of Yusei's father's want to get this project moving, he overlooked the obvious flaws to make the negative energy happen, which gave Roman here the chance to sabotage the whole thing, and thanks to that, it all went kaboom, kablow, and now the satellite is created and misery for all had ensued. Roman's slightly more ambiguous in taking credit for this in the Japanese version, but here he really is just like, yeah bro, who else could have done it? Santa Claus? Nah, he's too busy dueling Jack Frost. So the Zero Reverse event was never an accident, and when Yusei tries to dig deeper about Rex's involvement, Roman moves on to the duel at hand, trying to end it with one more attack, but Yusei is able to survive it for now. But the destruction around them is getting worse, with the building that Trudge and Martha are in starting to fall over as they realize that Taka is on the roof. So they attempt to save him, with Martha helping get him to Trudge at the cost of her own safety, making Trudge promise that when she's gone, that he'll help look after all the kids. But as she falls off the building, her essence is consumed by Yuru, so maybe she'll come back if the day is saved, right? Also, can the show not try and traumatize me nearly every episode this season, please? But this all causes so much pain to Yusei and Jack, with her final message to them being about her feeling warmth in her heart, that they are back together again. Yusei's ready to mess this guy up, hitting that level of anger that you only get to if something like this happens, as he then immediately gets out his Stardust Dragon. But Roman really, and I mean really, wants to mess with Yusei even further, further, showing that he is able to bring out in his place someone else from the souls collected, showing this off by bringing out Yusei's friend, Rally, to everyone's shock to force them to duel one another. While Rally is still himself for the most part, he is still forced to fight in the duel but tells Yusei that he must continue to do it as well and do what he needs to do to win, no matter what. And you could tell Yusei's kinda hesitant because he doesn't want to hurt Rally, but Rally, however, comes up with a plan here, synchro summoning his turbo booster cannon, and that monster only has one real ability, and that ability is for it to destroy one monster on the field of his choosing, and half of its attack points count as damage to the owner of that card, which means he can choose Earthbound Immortal Yuru. Yusei screams at Rally to not do this to himself, but Rally says he'll be watching from the shadows, wishing him the best of luck in saving the day, as he defeats himself, telling Roman to find a new pawn. Before Rally goes, Yusei holds him in his arms, where Rally says he knows Yusei can bring them all back, as he then turns to dust and blows away in the end. The duel is now over and the Nazca line disappears, as Roman is then joined by 4 other Dark Signers, as we see Callan, Carly, Misty, and Devak, with them having a mog-off against all of the good guys here to set the stage for the rest of the battles to come. I like how they also keep Carly hidden a bit here with her hood up, so that the reveal isn't spoiled here for Jack to really feel something just yet. But don't worry, it'll happen really soon. As the face-off continues, Devak ends up showing that he has what Luna has been looking for, Ancient Fairy Dragon's card, teasing her that if she wants it, they have to face off in a duel as Roman sets up a meeting between the factions the next day at the 4 Stars of Destiny, whatever that is. But Yusei is impatient, wanting to take them on now, but they disappear into the fog, telling him that they aren't supposed to duel where they are right now. Again, whatever that means, because like, you just did have a duel. But more importantly here, Jack felt something from one of the signers, almost as if he could feel Carly's presence, so he chases after her, removing her hood to reveal that it is Carly.
What?
As he can't believe that 1, she is alive and not turned into a spirit sacrifice, and 2, that she would be a Dark Signer now, which in a way is a different type of life sacrifice for the Shadow Army. But she tells him that if he wants answers, then he will have to come to the meeting they set for tomorrow, as she calmly hides her appearance again and walks off. We can even see tears flowing from her eyes when she does so. See, I told you Jack was about to figure this out. I need 5D's here to wait 5 darn seconds before continuing to make this season all about misery and pain. Like, this episode just started and I'm already sad and no longer having a nice day. Back at Martha's house, Yusei provides hope and inspiration to the doctor, the kids, and everyone else there, saying that by defeating the Dark Signers that they can get everyone back and all will be okay, promising them all that he and the others will do everything they can to make it so. Jack and Trudge confront Yusei about this after the kids go to bed, knowing that he doesn't know this to be true, as he confirms that he doesn't know for certain, but he lied because it's something that he himself needs to believe is true in order to not feel like this is all hopeless. Akiza stands with Yusei, willing to take his word and faith in this working, because no one believed in her being able to change and control her powers aside from him. But it will take more than just defeating them, as they also have to reverse the Energy reactor like Rex told them. Trying to figure out where this meeting spot is, Mina brings up that the 4 stars probably mean the 4 control units that were built to maintain the original reactor, as they were the first parts of the reactor to break when everything went wrong. Each of these control units went by a code name, and each of these names correlates with the names of the Earthbound Immortals, showing us 3 of the ones we've seen, along with this other one that looks like a monkey called Kusalu, with the spider then representing the main reactor itself. To start the process of reversing the reactor, they need to go to each of these control units and turn them on, and the way to power them up are the special dragon cards they each have, well, aside from Luna, but she's told how important it is for her to get that card back. Mina explains that Yusei's father entrusted Rex with these cards, and tells Yusei that his father wasn't what Roman made him out to be. He was trying to save everyone, doing whatever he could to stop the reactor from going haywire, and was at least able to save the cards. We see that Rex wanted to test the powers of destiny by releasing the cards back into the wild, and if all of this stuff is real, then they would end up in the hands of the signers. But now, in order to not waste time and turn on the different controls, the 4 signers will need to split up and head to one of the control units each to presumably get into a duel with a Dark Signer waiting for them. Even though they'll be apart, they are still a team standing together. Yusei chooses to go after Callan, with Akiza choosing Misty, Jack choosing Carly, and Luna of course going after Devak, with Leo going along with her. Trudge even offers to give them a ride over to accompany the kids, while Mina chooses to go with Akiza. As they head out, Yusei gives a final speech of encouragement, with this being their big moments to each fight back, and we can also see just how much Jack is feeling for Carly, thinking about all she did for him, caring for him, being there for him when he was at his lowest, as he is more determined than ever to somehow save her. Luna gets contacted by the Dual Spirits world again, with Kariban freaking out to her, as she then understands explains the situation and says she'll be right there, with her then being teleported into the spirit world right from the back of the car, leaving Trudge and Leo to figure out what's going on. Leo chooses to fully believe that she was taken to the spirit world, but just in case, he still searches around with Trudge for her, which this all doesn't turn out too great for him as he ends up running into Divac at the control unit as this dark signer sets up the battle, trapping Leo into a duel with him as the Nazca lines of the monkey form. Leo doesn't show any fear, saying he's going to be the one dueling instead of her, as Divac is like, alright, fine. You're not who I was waiting for, but let's make this quick. Yusei pulls up, trying to figure out the situation and telling Divac to stop this, but once a shadow duel starts, apparently, it can't be stopped, so, you know, that's a bummer. Leo's usually always confident in himself, but to see him standing up bravely to the Dark Signer in the efforts of protecting his sister from having to come and duel this guy is so heartwarming. But this isn't a small challenge to overcome. Divac starts off instantly doing damage to Leo, causing his screams of pain to be heard and felt even in the spirit world, with Luna taking notice and worried that he could be dueling. That's because he is, but you know, go ahead on your spirit adventure journey that you're going on. He's got this. Or not, you know, he really doesn't have the greatest track record with dueling. For Luna's journey in the spirit world, she remembers what Ancient Fairy Dragon told her not too long ago, and that's firstly looking for someone named Regulus who can help her to free Ancient Fairy Dragon. She first arrives in what feels like an abandoned town, but all those who live here seem to be running and hiding from Luna, as she then starts realizing things don't make sense here. Balls are bouncing upstairs, leaves are falling upwards from the ground, thinking that everything might be somehow in reverse as she sees all these weird staffs placed around the area. The little fellas running around tell Luna that the collectors are coming, and they've been capturing all of the duel spirits, warning her to follow them or just hide. And then this evil monkey army rolls up in some purple fog as they want to capture more spirits. Even the duel spirits in her deck are scared, but to protect her when the monkeys find her, they run off to get their attention. But the monkeys are able to still capture them pretty quickly, turning them into stone. Before she gets captured herself, someone comes to her aid to help her hide, this being Taranka, who is apparently the duel spirit for Dark Sage, who is supposed to look like this guy right here, but maybe this all has to do with things reversing and it's de-aging them or something, because what the heck? Okay, to be fair, he does explain this, saying that they are all under this minus curse that makes all the duel spirits appear young, making it easier for the monkeys to deal with and catch them. Either way, he tells her that there is some prophecy about a girl coming to save him, proving this to be true when she doesn't know what he's talking about by saying that she needs to find Regulus in order to help free Ancient Fairy Dragon. He also goes into the lore of the spirit world itself and how all the spirits lived in harmony. Things were great until the Shadow Army attacked, as some mysterious shadow figure came to them, sending in an army of these monkeys to use their magical staffs to imprison the spirits in stone tablets. And also, he thinks Regulus might be somehow affected by the minus curse or something as well, as he's been acting cruel and roaming the forest and attacking anyone that crosses his path when he used to be the sworn protector of this world to look out for the spirits. As she gets Taranka to help her and come with her to find Regulus, we see how Luna gets to fight back against the monkeys, using the power of the staffs to send objects backwards, explaining the physics of the ball bouncing up the stairs or the leaves going up that we saw earlier, so that's cool. Maybe it'll be used for something, I don't know. But hey, you know, I mean, it took out the monkeys here, so at least they can somewhat fight back, and that's better than nothing. As they continue on together, they talk about her brother, as she says that Leo's always stepping up to try and protect her, assuming that he is dueling in her spot, but claims that he's the one with the dueling skills, while she's just got the mark of the dragon and these other powers flowing through her. They also talk about what happens to the captured spirits as we find out that they are taken to Zeman, the Ape King's castle, as we can see this Ape King running the show to control the army of monkeys to do his bidding and rid this world of the duel spirits, as if he may not be one himself. Who knows? He probably is, but maybe like a different type of one. But you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, as he apparently came from somewhere else and started doing all this. Luna and Taranka end up finding the area Regulus is in, as she starts yelling out his name with no fear to get him to appear, but once he does, he seems extremely ferocious, even more so than Maggie's beast.
Great googly moogly!
At the same time as all of that, we have Leo's duel going on, where despite Divac's strategies, Leo is still holding on in the duel, and even gets to synchro summon his power tool dragon with 2300 attack points, getting a chance to get the upper hand in the duel with Yusei fully believing in Leo being able to pull through on this duel. Divac seems to know a lot more than he's letting on, claiming that at the same time, a war is raging in the spirit world as well, knowing knowing that Luna is there and having to face all that comes with trying to rescue her dragon at the end of the day. Divac then dark synchro summons Z-Man the Ape King. See, I knew you were a dual spirit, or, well, a dark dual spirit, so that's like another type of spirit world of like creatures and monsters to probably worry about if that exists, but whatever. Then Divac plays the spell card Closed Forest in the efforts of being ready to summon his Earthbound Immortal. It's safe to say that both of them are in some pretty bad predicaments. Which situation would you rather be in? Leave your responses in the comments down below. And whew, if I had to choose, you know I'm ready to take on a full-grown lion.
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's.
Signing back on.
Good thing I always keep this little resurrection charm with me. If I lost it, I'd be screwed.
A few moments later.
Whew, that could have been bad. All right, back in here for safekeeping. For Leo, he's doing what he can to hold his own in the duel, and even when he is getting hurt from losing life points, his Power Tool Dragon ends up shielding him to save him from being even more hurt. Playing back into the tease we saw during Leo's duel with Sayer, and something more was going on behind Power Tool Dragon's eyes when looking at Leo. Yusei keeps giving Leo confidence to not start panicking under pressure in the duel, wanting him to keep a cool head and believe in his cards. Feeling his bond to his dragon here and knowing that he wants to help protect Luna all the same, he's not giving up, ready to still give it everything he's got in order to try and stop him. For Luna, her confrontation of Regulus seems to not be going so well until she notices that on one of his back feet is one of those staffs that we saw in town, wondering if this could be the cause of his attitude being the way it is and being affected by its curse. Regulus, because of this, only hears everything in the complete opposite of what's being said, so he just hears that she's here to hurt him and to hurt the spirit world, as he for some reason sees her as Sans from Undertale. Then a few members of the monkey army come around and are getting into a scrimmage with him, as they then blurt out the answer of how to save him, and that's by having two of these minus staffs interact with each other to switch off the effect. And you know what? Thanks for always being dumb, bad guys. They never change. Luna and Taranka end up facing one of the monkeys and taking their staff pretty easily in order to go and face Regulus to use its powers on him to reverse what's already been done. Their tussle gets pretty dangerous, but then Regulus notices the mark of the signer on her arm, realizing that she is on his side and means what she says she is here for, not trying to trick him or hurt the spirit world. Once they are all safe and Regulus is back to normal, it's time for them to team up and do their task of rescuing Ancient Fairy Dragon together, and to do so, they need to go and stop Z-Man the Ape King, break his spell, and then the dragon will be free from her stone prison. Oh, and the spirit world will be saved. You know, that second part is important too. At the same time, Z-Man is preparing to finish conquering this world, getting ready to make sure everything with time here flows in reverse to eventually end this spirit world for good. A giant Minus staff appears in the sky as we see the world starting to regress, limiting their time to do this. Luna is praying that Leo can help her face the Ape King at the same time, to which he is, but you know, just in a different way. They end up arriving at Z-Man's palace, with Luna being in disguise as her and Taranka pretend to have captured Regulus and are bringing him as a gift to the king. Together they work hard to pull off this charade, with Luna giving a convincing performance here of trying to trick Z-Man. She brings up that his true goal is to put the Ancient Fairy Dragon under the Minus spell as well to absorb her power, but since Regulus is bound to the dragon as her protector, she tells him that to make the curse actually work on the dragon, it has to be done on both the dragon and Regulus in order for it to actually have an effect. Meaning he'll need to remove the seal on Ancient Fairy Dragon first before trying to use the Minus spell on both of them here, which is all just a workaround gamble to get the dragon freed before taking Z-Man down. And after a tense bit of consideration, Z-Man's all like, sure, why the heck not? What's the worst that can happen? I'll just listen to this random person who came here and told me I should do this. Things were about to go so well for Luna's plan here. Z-Man was unsealing Ancient Fairy Dragon and all was gonna be good, but then they get tripped up, literally, and it's revealed to them all who they are, with Z-Man resealing the dragon as his monkey army goes after them all. Regulus has a plan though, and that's by clashing the staff they have with Z-Man's in order to undo all that the Minus curse has done. As they do clash at the same time that Leo sends in an attack to deal with Z-Man in the real world duel going on, and things seem to work, but before Z-Man in the spirit world is defeated along with his monkey army, he says that he transfers the power of the Minus curse to the dark signer Divac. So that doesn't sound great, even if Z-Man was also defeated in the duel outside of this realm. But for the moment, things seem okay, maybe. Taranka turned old again, so that's good. But Regulus then explains what Z-Man did, showing that all of the other spirits here and the Ancient Fairy Dragon are still trapped because of Z-Man giving Divac the powers. So until he's defeated in the duel, the curse still lives on for now. Womp womp. And for even more womp womp though, D-Vac then starts bringing out his earthbound immortal Kusulu, which unlike the other immortals, this one requires power from the spirit world to be summoned, sucking them all in from one world so Kusulu can be let free in this one, coming out strong with 2800 attack points. To combat this, Leo uses Power Converter to get Power Tool Dragon's attack points lowered to 0 for now, so that he can get his life points back up to 4000 to keep the duel going. But from the power of this immortal, he's not doing too well, crying out to Luna for some help as she can hear him in the spirit world. And before they all get sucked up in the spirit world, Taranka uses what magic he has left to send Luna back to the real world in order to help her brother, but they must defeat D-Vac in order to save all of the spirits and the world for that matter, with Luna then appearing next to Leo as they get into a bit of an emotional moment here, and Leo feels like he is failing her, but she tells him that he's her hero. It's very touching, but from this point, she's going to take over the duel for now, but still is going to use his deck and having him by her side, so it's really feeling like them dueling together. Aside from just having this big immortal monkey to deal with, D-Vac then brings out his prisoner, the ancient fairy dragon, but Luna isn't scared, and if she is, she's still gonna do it while she's scared, because she then plays limiter removal, getting Power Tool Dragon up to 4000 attack points to save it from the immortal's attack, resulting in the immortal technically being defeated and now making D-Vac very angry. So as a preventative from the immortal being destroyed, he uses its effect, allowing him to send Ancient Fairy Dragon to the graveyard and cut Luna's life points in half, bringing her down to only 200 left. But this is just what she wanted. She needed her dragon in his graveyard so she can have a chance to get her back properly. She plays the trap card Respect Synchron, being able to take Ancient Fairy Dragon from his graveyard and bring it right to her side of the field. We see Regulus appear to come back and break the chains of her prison to set her free, as she comes out to the field now to join Power Tool Dragon, representing brother and sister working together to defeat this Dark Signer. Ancient Fairy Dragon thanks Luna for all that she's done, as the dragon then uses her effect to destroy the field spell Closed Forest in order to stop the immortal's effects and weaken it so that Leo and Luna together draw their next card and are able to equip both their dragons with some power-ups, and through this strategy, it seems that they are going to win. But then it ends on a to be continued. Again. Okay, enough with this monkey business. It's time to move on to what's next. This whole Leo and Luna bit took up quite the amount of episodes. Like, the next episode will be the 5th in a row that we're dealing with this. This is getting stretched longer than some of my videos do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, stop it. Thank you so much. Oh, you're too kind. Luckily, the episode starts with D-Vac's defeat, as he then very scarily tries to drag the kids down with him as he's being pulled into the netherworld. At least it's all dealt with, I guess. Thanks to this, all of the dual spirits are returned back freely to their world, showing that the spirits after a Dark Signer is defeated can come back. Yusei gives props to both of them, but also to Leo specifically for all that he did, and this acknowledgement has him bawling his eyes out over it. The spirits of Ancient Fairy Dragon and Regulus appear before them all to let Luna know that the spirits are free again, as they also scare Trudge because they tell him that they are real, and maybe now he'll finally believe all the stuff that's been going on that he's been very skeptical about. Both of the spirits here commit to fighting in this whole ordeal to the very end to make sure the Dark Signers are dealt with, returning to their card forms. As Yusei, Luna, and Leo enter into the control station there, with Luna placing the Ancient Fairy Dragon card on the device inside, activating it as it then goes underground, and now there are just 3 left to deal with and get activated. Yusei says that the next one to deal with is his, as he is ready to go and face Callan again. The Dark Signers aren't too happy that D-Vac was taken out, but where one pillar falls, another is put up in its place, as Roman goes to greet someone that they've been holding on to for a while, Greiger. Roman starts indoctrinating him into becoming a Dark Signer, trying to use his anger towards Rex to open up that despair so the darkness can set in. Roman then drops him into the portal of the netherworld below them, saying that his life is over, but he will technically be reborn thanks to the shadows. He's spouting all of this crazy stuff and helping Greiger target his anger towards the person who stopped him from getting revenge in the first place for his brother, for his sister, for the rest of his entire village, with that of course being Yusei. We see that this births a new activated Nazca line, this one representing a whale, as the newest Dark Signer Greiger is back on his dual runner and gunning it for Yusei Fudo. Also, apparently Crow was okay, as we see how he hid away to save himself from the fog that took everyone, and with him out and seeing everyone gone, even the kids he helped take care of, he ends up wanting to get back into the action of taking down the dark signers more than ever, as he then runs into Greiger, wanting to face off against him now. And if Greiger wants to get to Yusei, he must go through Crow first, with Crow putting some assurances that he will duel him here, placing a special electromagnetic pulse charge right onto his own duel runner that, if close enough, will take out Greiger's beloved bike as well. Greiger then has some interest in the duel for the fact that it can be a way to help lure out Yusei, and I guess this is a way to give Crow something to do like we saw with his random and pointless duel with Lazar. This is a turbo duel, but unlike the one with Yusei and Callan, this one will have no autopilot, as Crow wants to be able to drive on his own merits and not be subject to what happened to Yusei in his duel. Also, that's not even an electromagnetic pulse charge, it's just an alarm clock. He lied. In the Japanese version, he claimed it was a regular bomb, but it turned out to, of course, be a fake one as well. But can you imagine if it did turn out to be like a real bomb in the end? Just like what happened in Jingle All the Way? Sorry, I love that movie. Absolute classic. And much like Turbo Man's iconic catchphrase in that movie, it's turbo time. You know, because it's a turbo duel. Greiger proves to be a pretty fierce duelist to face off against for Crow, and ooh, it looks like Crow's driving off the side of a raised up highway. Let's just hope his bike wings can actually fly here. Anyway, this all does work to start luring in Yusei, because when they notice a new Nazca line emerge and it's one they don't know, they assume that someone new was made a dark signer, and that whoever is dueling them isn't a signer because their marks aren't glowing. Yusei and the others pull up to the scene with Yusei jumping into the Nazca line to scout out things to see what's going on. And for Crow, well, he used those wings and saved himself. Now, just stop driving off the edge, man. Jeez. But yeah, he's back in the duel and more motivated than ever to take this guy out, using his Blackwing strategies like usual, and I swear to God, if he says that one line that he always says one more time, I'm going to lose it. Okay, well, that's a giant relief. Yusei ends up catching up to them, excited to see that Crow's okay, but then confused and shocked to see that Greiger is now a dark signer. Greiger is doing all of this dark signer stuff to ultimately get revenge on Rex for what he did to his family, and Crow is fighting for who he considers his family that was made to disappear thanks to the Black Fog, so they are both fighting for ones that they love. Because of this, Crow isn't stepping aside to let Yusei handle this, even if Greiger would probably prefer that. That's who he was sent here to look for. But we have this moment here where we go into Crow's backstory about growing up with no parents in the satellite, how he had to survive but had these dreams of becoming a duelist, figuring it could be his way out of this place and onto a better life. From scavenging for cards in the dump and starting to build his own deck, he ends up finding community with other kids around his age who are all learning to duel as well, with the cards that they have or can find, with no fear of anyone trying to take them because of the mutual respect for the cards you have being the representation of your soul. When we see the first card he's looking at be a bird monster, one of the other kids says that they say your first card will predict your future, telling him that he may be able to fly out of the satellite one day. And we see how this community around him gave him a found family, and for why he cares for the young kids with no homes today as he's older. But oh my god, in the flashback we get to see a younger version of both Yusei and Jack, and come on, they're adorable. They look like those little Nendoroid figures. Crow says that he had everything in life taken away from him, but through dueling, he got everything he could ever have imagined. The biggest lesson he can teach other kids now is that when you have friends, you're never alone, and one day, all of them will be able to fly. Originally, his parents died in the Zero Reverse event, but Crow just doesn't phrase it in that way, opting to just say that he's been by himself since he was little. Yusei tries to play couples therapy with the two of them, as they should be on the same side in fighting for good, you know, to make a proper change here in the world, so that it all doesn't get destroyed, but it's mainly Crow responding, telling Yusei to back off and that he needs to duel here, even if it is for revenge, claiming that Greiger is just as responsible for what happened because he's a dark signer now. He's going to duel and do so with hate in his heart if that's what it takes. Plus, this is a shadow duel, so Crow mentions that there's no stopping it, wiping away his tears that perfectly land on Yusei's helmet. He understands where Crow is coming from, telling him good luck, but hate won't bring his friends back, as the duel continues on from there. Greiger is able to get out his big boy card, Flying Fortress Skyfire, with 3,000 attack points. Crow's all like, that's not a monster, that's World War IV, which means in this world that a third World War had already happened. And to be fair, we've probably already been in a World War III for a while now, with no one wanting to coin it as such. I would say that they wouldn't label something as a World War until later on, when you can see the bigger picture to determine that, but it was only 10 days after World War II started that they labeled it World War II by Time magazine. And there's your history lesson for the day. This will be on the test. With the battle getting heated and Crow on the ropes, he ends up synchro summoning Blackwing Armor Master with 2,500 attack points, aiming to attack Flying Fortress Skyfire, which can confuses Greiger because his monster has 500 more attack points, but thanks to Armor Master's special ability, he isn't destroyed himself and instead has left a little arrowhead counter on Greiger's monster, which is a technique we've seen him use before, draining Skyfire down to 0 attack points so Crow's other monster can attack and destroy it, as Greiger seemingly crashes from that hit. Crow tells Yusei that he's right. He's no better than a Dark Signer if he's dueling with hate in his heart, which is like, okay, you just worked out everything in the last several minutes since you said you were going to duel with hate in your heart? All right, congrats, I guess. And
hey, can I trade this in for something else, actually?
Really? What happened to, like cherishing it, like you said?
I don't like the way that it looks at me.
Okay, fine. Here, take these, okay?
Oh boy! 5 copies of The Bourne Ultimatum on the failed disc format HD DVD! That's exactly what I wanted! Thank you!
You're so welcome. Anyway, Greiger's not done so easily as he comes right back into the duel, and he's doing his Dark Synchro summoning thing, but before that, one of the cards he uses for it is Darksea Rescue.
And this has got to be one of the goofiest cards I've ever seen. I mean, just listen to them when they're summoned.
I love them. The card Greiger Dark Synchro summons is Dark Flat Top with 0 attack points and 3,000 defense points. And why does every card have to have Dark in the name to let me know who the bad guys are? You feel what I'm saying?
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
As we get back into the duel, Greiger right away gets out his Skyfire once again as well, taking out Crow's field of monsters, with the power of the attacks causing Crow to crash his duel runner. But the power of what he is fighting for helps him push through the pain, lift back up his bike and continue on, with Greiger thinking to himself that he knows he and Crow are fighting for their own versions of essentially the same thing. Crow just needs to figure out how to get out of the mess that he's in with this duel, while at the same time dealing with the real pain he felt from the fall that he took. But despite all of this, things aren't going to end this easily. Crow activates the card Blackwing Backlash, which thanks to all the Blackwing monsters in his graveyard, allows him to destroy all of the monsters on Greiger's side of the field, seemingly making for a nice comeback when it seemed like the end for him. Greiger has a plan of his own though when it comes to what's in his graveyard, using the trap card Contaminated Earth to work off the energy of the 2 level 5 or above monsters in his grave in order to summon his Earthbound Immortal, Chaku Chalua, with 2,900 attack points, and now there's a giant killer whale to deal with. Great! Who does this guy trying to be? Mako Tsunami? Nah, no one could ever be you, Mako. Anyway, Crow's not looking so good with only 100 life points left, and Greiger has the nerve to bring out these boys again, and it can't be appreciated enough. Thank you. Okay, seriously though, Greiger's really coming at him pretty strong, but thanks to the heart of the cards, Crow is able to pull the bird he needs in order to synchro summon Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant with 2,800 attack points, and thanks to its special ability being able to counter Shamu's, it seems like Crow can actually defeat this Earthbound Immortal. But before he finishes off Free Willy, it seems some other people needed to be freed as well, with Crow seeing the spirits of kids from Greiger's village and Greiger's own brother and sister who all beg for his help to get them back to their village, making their spirits seemed trapped in the netherworld for the sake of these immortals being summoned. But hey, this is kind of like great news, because if the day is saved, or more specifically, if Greiger is defeated, then Greiger's people will be saved too. They technically didn't die after all. Hooray! Yusei and Crow convince Greiger to look and see them as well, which of course trips him out as to how that's even possible. You know, a natural response to everything going on, with him then realizing that this is not the Crimson Dragon's fault, and the signers weren't the ones who wronged him, it was the Dark Signers all along. Greiger tries to then forfeit the duel now knowing the truth, but something stops him. Someone tries taking over him, forcing him to keep up the duel, and calling this nothing but signer tricks. But Greiger is fighting this voice and telling Crow to just help end things. It's the only way. So Crow activates Parasite Mind to take Greiger's trap card Basara and activate its effect, allowing him to sacrifice his Silverwind in order to take out the Immortal, dealing the damage to Greiger to win the duel, as the souls of the people from Greiger's village are seemingly let free. From the debris falling from the buildings after Free Willy 2 the Adventure Home dramatically crashes onto them, in defeat, Crow is nearly crushed, but Greiger speeds in to save him and instead gets crushed and trapped by it all himself, as he offered this last heroic act for Crow risking his own life in order to save Greiger's family. Greiger then thanks Yusei for helping him get through this darkness and see the truth, hoping that the signers can stick together to defeat the Dark Signers, as he then turns to stone and fades away into the netherworld. And like, I know there's this possibility of anyone turning to dust coming back, but like, he was also just crushed by a piece of a building. Does that get patched up for him because of going to the netherworld or something, or is this dude here just gonna die? I'm just asking. I don't want him to, but I want to know the rules of how this all works, okay? Sue me! What's this?
What? Really? Wait, why am I getting sued by Ethan Klein? What the heck did I do to him?
For all intents and purposes, this is a joke.
We see that everyone from the village is returned back home safe and sound, feeling happy that they have been saved and are hoping that Greiger can see the night sky wherever he is, as Yusei and the others now head towards where Callan is so that they can have their rematch. Of course, waiting for them is Callan as he and Yusei charge at each other and stop in this dual Akira slide to come face to face, as we get a bit more of a flashback to that one fateful night where Callan crossed the line and killed a security guard, and Yusei stopped him from running away, resulting in his arrest. But now we see that one of the sector security members pats Yusei on the shoulder as if it's to thank him for something, and when Callan sees this, he takes it as Yusei selling them out to the cops, and from that moment on, Callan branded him as a traitor, with Yusei denying that he is one, alluding to him never having anything to do with that part of what happened that night. Callan, though, wastes no time getting their shadow duel started, getting the Giants Nazca line to appear once more. Yusei's ready to do what it takes to win this, but also wants to make sure he gets his old friend Callan back, wanting to save him from the dark signer he's become. Going into more flashbacks, we get the moment after the city has been cleaned up from all the duel gangs, with Callan now wanting to set his sights on stopping them from regrouping by going out and destroying every duel disc that they can find. We can see the rest of the group aren't too sure about any of this, but they are like brothers, so they listen to Callan and follow his direction on what to do, as they hunt down anyone with a duel disc and are destroying them. Crow ends up coming face to face with a kid who has a duel disc and realizes that he can't do this. He didn't sign up for this, letting him go, as we then see that same younger kid then come across Callan, who with no hesitation destroys his duel disc, and Callan almost goes as far as to stomp on the kid's face until Crow comes in to save him, and all of the friend group starts getting into it. Crow ends up quitting the enforcers and Jack follows suit, but Yusei doesn't leave Callan alone and tries sticking by him despite him knowing that the others were doing the right thing by leaving and not being a part of this. Yusei knows what it's like to be alone and claims that no one deserves that pain, but like, everyone in this group knows what it's like to be alone basically, so like logically, I don't know if that all adds up here in my opinion, but okay, sure. You didn't want to abandon your close buddy. I get it. Eventually, as they are still together as the two-man enforcer crew now, they see that sector security is ramping up their arsenal, coming into the satellite now with police duel runners. Security claims that they are here to clean up the duel gangs, but like, you're a little late for that. However, they just go after anyone with a duel disc, same type of vibe that Callan's been on, honestly. But Callan sees security as the ultimate duel gang to go after, and they should be their final target. After a back and forth about this, Yusei thinks Callan is losing it and going too far, and won't be a part of facing sector security, as he then quits the enforcers as well. Yusei thought he was doing the right thing here and it would stop Callan from going after sector security because there's no way he would do it alone, right?
Wrong!
Callan's war on sector security became pretty brutal, truly setting things in motion when he's rigged all the confiscated duel discs with electromagnetic pulse charges, or just straight up regular explosives in the Japanese version, to go off inside the sector security building, which of course we don't see in the English dub because a building explosion would be too scary. We can't have that, no no no. And when Yusei catches wind of all this, he gets an alert out to Crow, who goes and then gets Jack, as all three of them are on the search for Callan, as he currently is then surrounded and trapped within a building by sector security and ready to fight them all till the end. But Crow, Jack, and Yusei all make their way into the building to confront him, claiming that he's gone too far this time, with Callan only looking at the bigger picture of Satellite being theirs once they defeat sector security. But before we get to the conclusion of this whole flashback sequence, we have a duel to deal with that's going on, remember? Callan quickly sets up the same strategy he used in their last match, emptying his hand of cards and dark synchro summoning 100-Eyed Dragon with 3,000 attack points, as we're getting right back to where things were left last time when they faced each other. Yusei's not messing around this time though. He's focused and is able to go band for band with Callan on having cards use their effects to combat one another. It's pretty fun to watch. Heck, even Trudge gives him props after Leo says that Yusei's the best. Trudge is all like, yeah, you may be right, but Callan is still pushing pretty hard, leaving Yusei in the hot seat of needing to get past the power of Callan's 100-Eyed Dragon, and beyond that, anything else that could be coming. I wonder what giant thing could be coming. Beats me. I wish there was some giant giveaway. What I'm alluding to is the Earthbound Immortal. As the duel continues on, Yusei right away synchro summons Junk Warrior, which, you know what? It's been a while since we've really seen him use this guy. Good to see you again. He even gives it a power boost thanks to his card Synchro Striker unit, putting it at 3,300 attack points, as it is then able to defeat 100-Eyed Dragon. But Callan just laughs at this because thanks to its effect, he can now add any card he wants from his deck and put it in his hand, with the card being something giant. And I wonder what that could be, as this all gives Yusei little time to figure out his defense when facing it. But this all gives us proper time to go back to the flashback where we see Sector Security telling Callan and the others that they only want Callan, and if they turn him in, the rest of them will be free to go, planting that initial idea in Callan's head about a deal being made to turn him in specifically. Yusei, Crow, and Jack all place their duel discs down and are refusing to help Callan fight the police, but instead of surrendering or giving him up, they tell him that they can all probably sneak away out back, still trying to help him despite all he's done, but it doesn't work. Callan seems to have gone too far and is lost in the sauce of wanting to kick Sector Security out of the satellite. With there being no time left, Security starts charging in, making our group here all run away for their own safety, but we see that Callan ends up getting cornered by one of the security officers in an alley with nowhere he can really run now. Callan tries to get him into a duel by saying he's not going down without a fight, and while the security officer does start out dueling, he quickly tries to Akira slide right into Callan against a wall, but Callan dodges this, being able to jump onto the back of the bike with him and trying to choke him out as the officer is now flooring it. Yusei finds them and tries to get involved, telling Callan to stop, but from what's going on, they end up crashing, resulting in the officer getting knocked out as Callan has hit his breaking point. But before he does what you're thinking he's about to do, Yusei rushes in, stopping Callan and getting Crow and Jack to help get him into a building to hide him there, as we get the real truth about what Yusei was willing to do for Callan, as he goes outside and faces Sector Security alone, putting his hands up and claiming that he's the leader of the enforcers and it's him that they want. But it's too late. The lead officer here knows who the real leader is, as they watch as Callan and the others were found and Callan is taken into custody, with the officer then patting Yusei's shoulder in a way of acknowledging the noble act that he was willing to do to protect his friend, that Callan then misinterprets as Yusei selling him out and betraying him. Now, real quick, this version of the event takes out the insinuation that Callan killed this Sector Security officer. Like, he's supposed to beat up the unconscious cop with a crowbar and literally have blood splattered on his face. Now, yeah, obviously we wouldn't see any of this in the English dub regardless, but this flashback scene now makes it look like he didn't take out the security officer in a brutal way that it previously did. Callan also references his time in the facility and how he was turned into a dark signer, which here is, again, extremely cut and not really shown at all. In the original, we see him beaten up by the guards of the facility. We see how painful him getting his criminal branding mark was, and how he let himself rot in his cell, essentially starving himself to death, which is when the dark signers reached out as he gave his life to them, allowing his to end so that he could be reborn into the dark signer he is now, with the goal of getting revenge on Yusei specifically. Yeah, I understand why it's all cut from the English dub, but like, come on! This all works so well for understanding just why Callan is so set in his ways, for who he is now as a dark signer, why he is filled with so much hate and is harder to break through to. So now back to the duel, Callan brings out his giant, summoning Earthbound Immortal Kokopakapu, as it tries to attack Yusei like last time, but what seemed like it crushed him last time he mentions was just his front wheel breaking, ending the duel early, and not from the hand of the giant smashing into the ground in front of him. But with another great set of strategies going back and forth and Yusei keeping himself safe in the duel, he ends up bringing out his Stardust Dragon now, which they censor briefly because it looks like he's giving the middle finger when he's holding it. They did the same thing to this Sabrina's Gaze Pokemon card. But as Callan thinks he still has this in the bag, the sheer weight of the Immortal crushes part of the roads in the city, affecting Callan while driving and nearly making him crash, as Yusei immediately holds out his arm to help him, just like when Callan was there to save Yusei that one time, which catches Callan off guard for Yusei being there as Yusei then apologizes to him, knowing that he truly needed someone in those moments before making the dumb decisions of going to attack Sector Security. He feels he shouldn't have left him alone back then, since they were friends and they should have just found a better way to fix things together. He continues on with a whole speech about him and his friends fighting together for something bigger than them that they believe in, and he's not fighting in this duel to just defeat his old friend, he's trying to find a way to save him. Callan screams out that it's too late as he's fighting back the pain that he's in, but then all of a sudden, the marks of all the other signers disappear and come together as one on Yusei. For some reason, the top card on Yusei's deck is glowing and he can feel the energy from it calling to him, so he summons it as its majestic dragon, as he then combines it with another monster on his field, Stardust Xiaolong, as well as his Stardust Dragon, in order to synchro summon Majestic Star Dragon with 3,800 attack points. It has the power to strip Callan's Earthbound Immortal of its special abilities and use them against it, finishing off the duel in, dare I say, a majestic way. I'm sorry. With Callan defeated and the Netherworld ready to take him, Yusei holds Callan in his arms, saying he's not giving up on him, that he's going to save him, with Callan admitting to all the hate and anger he felt over the years and how that's all gone now, feeling thankful for Yusei being there to pull him out of the darkness. But before he goes, he tells Yusei to promise him that he won't beat himself up anymore over what happened, as he takes full responsibility for messing things up back then. He makes sure Yusei is going to continue on and defeat the Dark Signers, telling him to not back down no matter what, and to push the shadows back to where they belong. And with that, Callan ends up fading away into the Netherworld, with Yusei left to continue on and make sure that he doesn't break the promises he's made, as he vows to make the Dark Signers pay for all that they've done.
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's.
Signing back on.
In the aftermath of the duel, we see how Roman is taking to the news of Callan losing, as he struggles with the darkness taking over and consuming him more, but he knows he has a task to finish before that can happen, as we see him reminiscing over the past, seeing a photo of him, his brother, and Yusei's dad from before the Zero Reverse incident. He's thinking that Yusei is very much like his father, and for real, he's like the spitting image of him. Roman then makes a promise to defeat Yusei just like he defeated his father, with us cutting back to Yusei, who finishes up his task of placing his Stardust Dragon in the control panel and activating it. They get a little moment to celebrate and see that the people sacrificed for Callan's Earthbound Immortal are now being returned to the real world, giving them hope that what they are doing is working. But then one of the little spiders comes and bites Trudge, letting Roman control him once more and deliver a message to Yusei about thinking it's time that they actually get into a duel again, telling him to come to the reactor site, as he then lets Trudge go. Of course, Yusei isn't going to back down from this and is going to head there right away, regardless of the other two control units needing to be dealt with by Jack and Akiza. Back in New Domino City, the unrest of the citizens is getting a lot more serious, with martial law being put in place and still no answers being given to them about what's really going on, causing the panic to only grow worse. We see that Lazar is now talking to a mysterious individual who is pulling strings that are above even Rex, claiming that he and his organization have put their entire trust into Rex and Roman, saying they need them to stop messing around and realize their destiny. Lazar tells them that it's already been 20 years of waiting. What's a few more hours, you know? Thickening the plot of what's really going on here, and can I just say, Lazar just gives me Stewie Griffin energy, and I won't elaborate further on what that means. I just feel a vibe here. We then see Rex landing at the Energy Reactor site, as he ends up going to have a private meeting with his brother in his secret lair office at the bottom of the crater. The security guards with Rex end up getting taken out by this giant spider Roman commands, but to be fair, Rex warned his security team to not come down with him, but then the two of them start discussing promises that they made that Rex says that he has kept and has been doing everything on his part to ensure that they are at where they're at right now, with everything that's been set in motion and getting the signers all together. Roman claims that the two of them are just pawns in a larger game that they will truly never know, revealing his own wrapped in metal arm, telling his younger brother that 17 years ago he had the courage to open Pandora's box and put his faith in destiny by giving Rex the key to Earth's survival, saying they must bring the great spirits together before time runs out. He says that soon the king of this netherworld will emerge, but Yusei and the other signers are trying to close that gate, trying to stop destiny. Rex brings up that there is another possible outcome to how all of this can actually play out with Fate, as both of them then activate their own dual discs. And honestly, I can't tell if they are on the same side, or if they hate each other, or if any of this all matters since they're just pawns. I don't know. Like, do they even duel here? Who's to say? What I do know is that Yusei and the others end up pulling up to the crater, seeing the sheer size of it up close and being in awe over it. But as they start making their way down the convenient set of stairs, Crow gets distracted by noticing sector security transportation being there, and from that, finding the secret elevator that Rex took, and instead of alerting the others as to what he's doing, he just goes and starts investigating this all himself without them. Like that's the smart idea, man, but okay, sure, Crow, you go do that. That's the smart idea. Have fun. Eventually, Yusei reaches a scary, rickety bridge that cuts across the crater, as then Roman appears to all of them, explaining that this is all part of Destiny's plan. Roman tells him that Yusei was supposed to destroy his friend Callan much like he destroyed Yusei's father, as he then pulls a drawstring from his arm like he's going to say, "There's a snake in my boot," that causes the reactor then to start going off and glowing below them. Roman tells him that 20 years ago, Yusei's father found this gateway to the Netherworld, a place that holds a magnificent power, and once that gateway is fully open, that power will consume this world completely. He says that humans are just a means to an end, saying we're not important unimportant, we're disposable, our lives mean nothing on an individual level, claiming it's this light that's important, and it's what ultimately took Yusei's father, well, forcefully by Roman making that all happen, fully consuming him as Roman is awaiting his turn to be fully consumed by it. This then leads directly into them having a duel, as Yusei wastes no time synchro summoning Junk Warrior out to the field and draining a good bit of Roman's life points. This, of course, is all going to plan for Roman, wanting that all to happen so that he can summon his earthbound immortal Uru, as we can see the energy pulsing more and more around them, and it for a moment becomes a game of Yusei blocking and defending himself from oncoming attacks from the immortal to not be instantly taken out. And just look at this one trap card Yusei plays, Spirit Force. You can't tell me that this is not just a Super Saiyan with a dual disc here, right? But even with all the power behind that Saiyan, Roman is able to out-counter it, allowing for his immortal to attack directly and leave Yusei with only 100 life points left. Roman keeps pushing Yusei in regards to his father, telling him to stand up and fight back so that he can push him into the shadows just like he did to Yusei's father. As the duel was going on, Crow is down below rummaging through the debris of the reactor from when the Zero Reverse incident happened, where he even finds a photo of Yusei's parents, recognizing that Yusei and his father look so alike. In the Japanese version, he didn't infer this at all and was like, wait, who is this? And I'm like, come on, man. I'm happy with the obvious change because one look at this picture here and it's like a no-brainer. What's next? He's gonna start looking into a mirror and not recognize who he's even looking at? Yusei's not doing so well, his 100 life points are cut even further now down to only 50 left, and everyone's worried, but Yusei isn't giving up, and the others still cheer him on. Roman finds much joy in how destiny works, because how else could Professor Fudo's own son be the one in the future here to come face him as a signer to try and stop everything? Roman then starts breaking down the events of what happened with Yusei's father in the past, saying that Professor Fudo was an expert in quantum physics and discovered something called planetary particles, which are like planetary gears that bind otherwise unrelated particles to one another, making the example of how like the Crimson Dragon has united all the signers together. So we continue on with a bunch more scientific talk. Professor Fudo was building and manipulating greater molecule structures thanks to the particles, which ultimately led to the discovery of NRD in the first place. Professor Fudo was super excited about it all, and we see how Roman and Rex were brought on to the NRD reactor team to work underneath the professor. But then on one day of their testing, they noticed the energy spiking unusually high, creating new power unlike they've seen, and with their tests on it, strange weather phenomena would happen in New Domino City. So for the safety of the city, Professor Fudo wanted to shut everything down for now. But both Roman and Rex aren't on board with that, claiming they need to press on with these tests regardless of what's happening. Roman did some investigating on his own, finding another place in the world where strange activity is happening when these tests are done, bringing him to the Nazca lines, where he ended up meeting a man who was there who was from Iliaster, and just somehow waiting for him out in the middle of nowhere. And this guy seems to know everything about all that's going on, the reactor, Professor Fudo, and more importantly, how Roman feels about it all, telling him that beyond the reactor's light lies something special. This guy says he and the others from Iliaster believe in Roman to be the one to keep this project going and, quote, turn the present into the future, telling Roman he's special and marked for greatness by destiny itself, revealing that he this whole time was the one who had the last mark of the Crimson Dragon on his arm. What? As then this guy tells him to listen to the voice coming from the light, and it will tell him everything that he needs to know. After that random mysterious guy disappears, Roman heads back to the lab again, and it's then he can finally hear the light speaking to him, but not through words. It was a deeper level of communication, and the power from the reactor was strong enough to undo the seals of the Nazca lines and set in motion the greater battle between the armies once more, leading to, of course, Roman sparking the events of Zero Reverse, or as I like to call it, NRD Day. Thank you for the one person that liked that one, I appreciate you. Crow ends up running into Rex down below in the reactor area as he claims that he's there to say goodbye to his brother while also continuing on about the past and their connection to Yusei's dad and the events of the past. We see that the company funding the reactor, the RRD, decided to kick out Professor Fudo from running the operation from his refusal to push forward with it as Roman steps in to take things over, teasing he has the 4 keys to the seals, that being the 4 dragon cards of the signers, with Yusei's dad bravely snatching all of them and trying to make an protects it, showing how he ended up dropping one of them, that being the ancient fairy dragon, to set up Luna's future dealings with that card, as we then see a hurt Professor Fudo speak with Rex, handing him the cards and telling him to hide them from Roman as if his life depended on it. Rex then ends up confronting Roman about what he's doing, as Roman asks if he helped Professor Fudo try and escape, but before he can even really answer that, he tosses him a special vial, telling him to run, as what's in there is the key to the world's survival. He says that the powers of good and darkness are struggling in a battle within him, and right now, he's trying to keep the mark of the dragon safe, telling him to gather the 4 signers and to come back and defeat him.
So yeah, this dude cut off his own arm and gave it to his brother for safekeeping. That's what's in the weird green vial. That's his arm. That's crazy. But we see that shortly after this, Roman activates the reactor, causing it to spin in reverse and declaring himself a dark signer. There was a lot more blood in these flashback scenes in the Japanese version, a trend that will keep happening for a lot of scenes for the rest of this season, but you already know why it isn't here, okay? At the same time, we see Professor Fudo and a baby Yusei as he's trying to protect his son, sending him out of the facility in the final moments of the reactor meltdown happening, as the professor is still there and becomes fully engulfed in it all. As Crow and Rex talk some more, Crow makes mention of that mysterious figure who was trying to build the bridge and how there is that inspiration of wanting to connect the cities, as Rex knows about that story, asking if he really believes it, alluding to something about it being even more interesting, but instead of digging into that, he tells Crow to inform Yusei that if he beats his brother in the duel, then he'll be waiting for him, as he then heads into a private room and then locks Crow outside of it. As for Yusei, he questions why say all of this other stuff about his father before, as Roman says it was only just a way to, you know, mess with him. With Yusei's struggles in the duel being pretty bad here, he does his thing, he makes his big comeback strategy happen and gets out his Stardust Dragon, and I'm not kidding when I say this, but these two then go back and forth so many times to counter one another before any real move actually does something, it's practically comical. I'm going to play this card and attack. No, you're not. I play this card and I'm gonna counter that. Ah, not so fast. I counter your counter with another counter. Nuh-uh, cause I counter that and then attack twice now. Not if I have anything to say about that, cause I counter that with this. Nice, that played right into my trap of countering all of the counters that came before so I can counter your current counter with this counter. Count on that. Okay, pause. I'm just genuinely confused right now. Yeah, me too, honestly. I don't know who's countering who at this point. You wanna just go like grab some Denny's or something? Sure, I can go for a Grand Slam. Eventually, Yusei starts telling Roman like it is, saying there's no such thing as destiny. Then what do I have in my hand right here? Heck, they even made a sequel. Yusei continues on with what he was saying about destiny and how it's not a thing, and what it actually is what you do and what you don't do. He understands that life is a series of chain reactions, so for example, if his father never discovered those particles, none of this would be happening. The Zero Reverse incident never would have been a thing. He starts tearing up as he thinks about all the lives affected by that and how his friends like Jack and Crow would have been able to have a normal life and growing up through that instead of surviving in Satellite like they ended up doing. He says his dad was just his dad, not some cosmic chess piece here. He says that all of his friends have gone through what they've gone through because of the choices that Roman made. Everyone living in Satellite was affected by it. Crow gets back to the others and tells Yusei not to listen to anything Roman's saying, telling him that it's not his father's fault. He can't be blamed for Roman's choices. And Crow says that if it weren't for the Zero Reverse event, then none of them could have ever met and become friends, saying that good things can lead to bad things, which can lead to more good things. That's just life, and at the end of the day, we all have choices. Shout out E40, as we're not destined for something. We just live as we are. Yusei then is able to have Stardust Dragon come in and help win the duel, but Roman only laughs, saying that if he doesn't get the other 2 seals dealt with by sunset, the king of the Netherworld will resurrect, as he then explodes, causing the bridge to snap, as he then turns to shadow dust, leaving Yusei falling down towards the Netherworld portal. Rex ends up returning back to his house and heading to the Crimson Dragon stairway altar, knowing that his brother is no more, but knew that this was the path he was on, his destiny, as there are greater forces at play. Rex, however, says that if they are pawns in Destiny's game, then it's time to change the rules, as he looks at the severed arm with the 5th marking on it, ready to do something. Probably not good, though, right? Rex is still overall going to be like a bad guy, right? Who knows? Maybe it's all like a big twist. Maybe Yusei has been the bad guy the whole time, and the real hero of this story has been Dick Pit all along. We get to see the
aftermath of Roman's defeat by a bunch of citizens returning back to the real world, which included Yusei's friends and Martha in this batch, so that's great. We also now focus on Jack as we see him looking for the control unit, and more importantly, Carly, as he'll stop at nothing to get to her. Not even for a giant rock in the way that he could easily avoid, he'll just drive right through it. Man, there really is no one quite like Jack Atlas, except for Kaiba. Honestly, I could see him doing stuff like this. Anyway, at the control unit, he does end up finding Carly there waiting for him as she pulls up on her own new duel runner, as she no longer sounds like the real Carly we saw slip out when last talking to Jack. Here, she's a full-on dark signer and ready to rev it up. She's bringing up the paparazzi comment that Jack made in order for her not to come to ultimately protect her, and he's like, dude, come on, I said that to keep you safe. Oh, come on, I didn't mean it. Carly is directly blaming Jack for why she is a dark signer now, and Jack vows to save her from being one. Carly sets up the duel for them, bringing in the Nazca line and claiming that if Jack wins, then Carly turns to normal. But you know, she'll probably fade away to the netherworld for a little bit of time or something. But if Carly wins, then Jack will become a dark signer himself. And maybe then they can become like a dark signer power couple or whatever. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. We get a flashback to when Carly was just freshly a dark signer, not sure of what they're wanting from her or will want her to do. But similar to when Yusei had a glowing card in his deck for his duel with Callan, from the power of the Crimson Dragon's mark, she sees a glowing card all the same in hers, but from it, she is fully turned into a dark signer, pushing that darkness in her head to a much further extent. Jack is really expressing how much he wants to be there for Carly, and how no matter what, he is going to fight through whatever she is sending his way in the duel. But this isn't the weaker duelist Carly we saw when she first faced Sayer. This is an even more advanced Carly than even when we saw her face Sayer the second time. We get to a point where she has Jack more on the ropes than ever before outside of his duels with Yusei, as she then activates that special glowing trap card, Enlightenment, which shines so bright it takes us to a completely different scene to give us some answers as to what happened to Yusei, as he was last seen here just falling straight down into the netherworld portal. And honestly, it seems like he's in a nightmare, as he wakes up in this dark void where a bunch of zombie-like spirits come out to try and hold him down. But when one of them touches his arm where the mark is, he sees the moment the reactor originally had the meltdown, leading him to thinking that these are all the original lost souls from that day, as he then starts sinking into the ground as he's dead now. Yep, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you later. Well, regardless of what really did just happen to Yusei right there, the show must go on. Literally. As the duel between Jack and Carly continues, and from the bright light of enlightenment, Jack is given this view of the future as if he had lost the duel to Carly, and then she had helped turn him into a dark signer so they can be that super sleek looking evil power couple. Seriously, Jack looks like he belongs in like Tron or something. And with the tie-in to like the light bikes, you know, come on, we need this. Set a whole season of the show in the grid from Tron. I'll pay so much money to see that. In this version of a possible future, Jack is treated like he's this dark king, and that all of this destroyed world that is reset to nothing but is in the early stages of formation with lava and rock and just rubble from the world before, all just being his now. And I'd be like, I don't want this. What am I supposed to do with this? I need a Target, like a movie theater, some bookstores to buy manga. Seriously, what am I supposed to do with rocks? Everything then cuts back to the duel when Carly plays Enlightenment, saying her purpose was shown to her once she saw the card, allowing her to know that she was supposed to face and defeat Jack in a duel so that he can become this dark king. So while Jack's stuck in this fake vision of the future, we see that in the current timeline, Carly's glasses slip out of his jacket, which somehow end up in this vision of the future, allowing Jack to realize that what he's seeing is just one big trick, allowing him to snap out of it, as he then plays the most on-brand card for this that's just perfect, called Changing Destiny. And ooh, are you gonna take the red door or the blue door? Which will it be? Either way, this saves Jack from Carly's incoming attack and has him right back in the duel, telling her that he's not listening to her pleas of this future becoming real. He wants what's actually real. Carly, the girl he knew before she became this. Quickly back to Yusei for a moment before he is fully sucked down into the ground. A voice calls out, telling the spirits to leave him alone. It's not his time. As we see the silhouette of someone trying to tell him that he has much more to do back on the satellite, with Yusei questioning who he is, but he replies back saying that he's not to be questioned right now. But let's play a little game of Guess That Pokemon with this silhouette. Who's that Yu-Gi-Oh character? It's Dick Pit! Hey, what's up? My name's Dick Pit. Okay, for real though, I mean, it's clearly just Yusei's father. I just can't stop thinking about Dick Pit. I miss Dick Pit. I also think I've said Dick Pit too many times during this video.
And I'm not really sorry about it either. We start this next episode off taking a flashback look into Carly's life, seeing her as a kid taking photos and having a love of sharing that to the world however possible, even if others don't really get it, but like, who wouldn't get it? Why do people post on social media or make YouTube videos or stream? They want what they do to be seen by others, have social interactions, and form some sort of community. There's also the influence side to all of that, and Carly believes that by being a good person, you could make a difference in the world, or just in one person's life. We cut back to the duel going on, and it's clear to see that the real Carly is now struggling to fight her way back out, while this dark signer version of her is still mostly winning. Jack tells her that when he was lost, she helped him find his way, showed him the light, and he is going to properly repay her no matter the cost. He tries showing her that she does have a choice here, and this thing about destiny isn't true by having the other effect of his changing destiny trap card happen, allowing her to pick how the effect works. She can either add some life points to herself or run down Jack's life points, both based on half her monster's attack points, which would be 1400. And with Jack only having 800 life points left, the choice should be pretty obvious here, but Jack was betting on the real Carly coming out, and when she does look at him, she starts seeing all of their memories together, choosing then to not go after his life points and instead heal hers up to be at 5000 now. For some reason, this all completely helps wash away the darkness for Carly, at least for now, and Carly and Jack can talk together properly now, but after she apologizes for all she's done to him, the darkness starts taking over her once more, saying she can't escape it. Once she's marked for life. Who is the voice talking to her? I don't know, it can't be Roman, he got murked. So it must be this other king we've just heard about from the Netherworld. Scary, but exciting. So now the duel continues on because this is Yu-Gi-Oh after all. They gotta be dueling. And now, with more passion than ever to try and rescue Carly, Jack ends up synchro summoning his Red Dragon Archfiend for the first time this entire season. And the season's almost over. Carly's eyes are glowing a sinister purple now, as well as she has those veins that show up on the bad guys' faces when they get really evil, with the battle getting pretty intense here. But after one of Red Dragon Archfiend's attacks, it looks like Carly starts drifting into the purple flames of the Nazca line as Jack cries out to her, but she's okay. Well, the darkness in her is okay, and continues on the duel as she ends up bringing out her Earthbound Immortal, Asilapiscu. Jack is still trying to speak to Carly, telling her that she did something that no one else has ever done for him before, and that's giving him the belief in himself, and beyond that, helped him find that belief in others, like her or the other signers. Carly believed that being able to reach out to one person means you can reach everyone in the world, and for how Jack feels, she's done that through him and has now helped so many. The power of light is on Jack's side while Carly is filled with the power of darkness, but for who Jack has become and that true energy needed from all those he knows he's fighting beside, the Crimson Dragon's marks on everyone disappear once more and all show up for Jack, just like what happened to Yusei in his duel, entering in the glowing card again with it being Majestic Dragon, the same card Yusei had. He knows that he can win if he uses that card, and we even hear the real Carly say and confirm this, knowing that's what can happen, as in Jack's mind, Carly is pushing him to use it, wanting him to finish this duel and telling him to just forget about her. The fate of the world is at stake. She begs him to do this for her as he reluctantly goes through with it for the greater good of the world. He combines Majestic Dragon with both Battle Fader and Red Dragon Archfiend to synchro summon Majestic Red Dragon with 4000 attack points and is able to take the attack points from her Immortal to power it up to a total of 6500. Instead of attacking and winning, Jack still doesn't want this all to result in hurting her like this attack would, thanks to it being a shadow duel. So he has a plan set up to take out his own dragon in order to lose the duel at the same exact time. But Carly takes control of the move she plays now, using the card Earthbound Release to destroy all monsters on the field, which would send those attack points of Majestic Red Dragon right at Jax to drain him, but one of the dragon's effects negates that and sends that attack point value directly back at Carly, which Jack thinks is careless until he realizes that Carly did this on purpose so that she could lose, knowing Jack couldn't fully go through with just defeating her, in which we don't get to see the final attack even come in. In the Japanese version we do, we see her get yeeted off the bike and lose, but here we just go straight into more of the visual representation of Carly speaking with Jack, saying that he still is going to become king one day, flipping around a card to show him being cheered on by all of these kids who think he's the greatest as he celebrates that with them, with the actual card's name being Everyone's King. Hey, I want that card! Okay. Thank you. Where is it? Ah, dude, that's so sick. Take a look at this. I got it. Okay, back to the video now. In the end, we see Jack holding Carly's body, begging her to somehow hold on, but she's not going to last long, and she knows this, thanking Jack as he puts on her broken glasses, and I'm sure that helped Jack, thanks. She's not scared of the netherworld. She hears it calling, but she says she'll be alright, and hopefully she will. She tells him they'll be together again one day, and he agrees with her on that, promising to do whatever it takes to bring her back and never giving up hope while trying. She calls him her number one as they embrace in a hug before she fades away. And man, just as sad and emotional as this was, the Japanese version takes it even further. Like, they straight up are saying that they love each other, and it makes the heartbreak even more achy breaky, and all that's left once she's gone are her glasses. Like, why'd you even try putting them on her face anyway, man? As far as Yusei's netherworld business, he is saved and brought into a different part of the netherworld that is even darker, with Professor Fudo showing up in a Super Saiyan-like glow to greet Yusei, but tell him that he needs to rise to the greatness that he was destined for, which, like, I thought we were supposed to be, like, anti-destiny, but whatever. He still has to now make it happen for it to be achieved, so, you know, I get it. But, you know, sorry, Yusei, no more time for daddy issues at the moment. I'm sure we'll get back to this and get everything figured out for you at some point. But here he gets brought back into the real world and lands softly in the arms of his friends, as they must all go make sure that the other two control units are dealt with before sunset. Well, make that one, because Jack took care of his, so yay, only one left. And honestly, you know, it does kind of feel weird that we've beat Roman already and we're still dealing with all the stuff you would do before that. But I guess there's some netherworld king that could be coming here and we need to worry about instead, so whatever. Now we are going to focus on the final battle needing to be had, and that's the one between Akiza and Misty, where we see Misty crying over her brother Toby while Akiza shows up to the control unit area in search of her, knowing that Misty blames her for whatever did happen to her brother, but she has no clue about anything to do with him. Mina ends up being contacted by some random dude here that claims to work for Rex, and that she needs to go with him. Also, Yusei and the others arrive at the location as well to make sure that this is all dealt with before sunset. Akiza eventually stumbles upon where Misty is in this carnival-like setting, with her then being trapped in a house of mirrors, all for the point of trying to give Akiza some stuff to reflect on from her past. We then see this mysterious guy again as he saves Yusei from the falling pieces of wood here, and telling him that he is there to search for Akiza for Rex, but has no clue as to why because it's classified to Rex himself only. So Yusei's like, sure, and tags along with him in search of her. As the duel between Akiza and Misty gets started, Misty, who is dueling through the reflections of the mirrors, sets up her strategy as a way to relive her memories so that Akiza can see them. Firstly showing off who Toby, her brother, was. Toby is coming to give his sister a special pendant as a present, and is also gushing about seeing another duelist who has powers similar to him, saying their name is Akiza and they are from the Arcadia movement. Misty has a bad feeling about this group, with Toby getting defensive about wanting to be a part of this group because it has people who are just like him, people who get him. The guy that Yusei is with turns out to be, well, not the guy he says he is, as he ends up trying to trap and lock away Yusei, much like he ended up doing with Mina as we see her passed out and locked in a cage. This person ends up attacking Yusei with some fireballs and a sword that he summons that he can wield, saying all Akiza needs is him. We'll keep cutting back to all of this, but for Akiza's duel, Misty brings up more from the past with Toby, showing that he came to the Arcadia movement because of her, and Akiza was just plain rude, to which she explains that she wasn't herself back then, and Misty's not even mad about the attitude she had, it's what would ultimately happen to Toby that she blames Akiza for. As for Yusei and the psychic duelist, Yusei ends up getting bested by these real attacks coming for him, being hit hard and pushed down to be locked up with Mina, while this guy makes it so they can't escape from the cage and it starts flooding in with water. So, you know, that sounds fun, hope you brought your bathing suits. The psychic claims that Akiza belongs to him and him alone, going after her from this point, and it really makes you think about who this could be. You know, if you put two and two together, you probably already can tell, but we'll just let the show reveal that when they're ready. Misty ends up going further into the memories as the duel goes on, mentioning back to the day where Akiza's powers were shown off in a duel in downtown New Domino City, and she couldn't have control of them, causing some major damage all around. And Misty claims that that day she never saw him again. So that kind of explains it. Here in the English dub, it's like, where did Toby go? What happened to him? But in the Japanese version, we see that Toby ends up being crushed by the falling debris from her powers. Then a following scene where Misty is with Toby at his deathbed, crying in pure agonizing loss, as that was all cut as well. Which then leads into a much darker scene for Misty that was cut, where she ends up driving off a cliff over being upset as to what happened to her brother, leading to why she was in the hospital in critical condition and technically would die there to then be reborn as a dark signer. Akiza didn't know about any casualties from that day that happened, as Misty brings up how the Arcadia movement has all these perks tied into the government and how easy it is for them to have cover-ups, which is kind of what we were seeing in Sayer's secret office when Carly was investigating it all. Akiza refuses to believe that this was her doing, saying there was no cover-up
and she wants to prove this to be true, continuing the duel from there. But this duel isn't on the level of exciting as the other ones, as again, it really is this vessel to just peel back these story layers for these two characters first, with the duel taking a backseat to everything second. Akiza says that what Misty is choosing to believe happened didn't happen that way, and she's just looking for someone to blame. But when she starts second guessing all that Sayer said to her, she ends up tripping backwards and almost gets impaled by a shard of glass from a broken mirror. But luckily, that mysterious guy comes in and saves her, saying he's the only friend she'll ever need, revealing himself to be Sayer, who is somehow now alive again, meaning he could have used some magical powers to be okay, or if he was sacrificed to an immortal during that double event, maybe he's back now or something. Either way, he starts telling her that her true powers are locked away inside of her, and he can help unlock them real quick, whispering in her ear the phrase, "The entrance to the netherworld is on the witch's island," which activates her like a super soldier, as she now has energy spiraling all around her, and Sayer just says beat Misty in this duel and then runs away. And with the duel continuing, Misty gets out a monster called Dragon Queen of Tragic Endings, which is like, come on, we get it, Misty. Everything revolving around your character is drenched in sadness. I feel bad for you, I truly do, but like, you don't have to tailor your deck to it all and be this on the nose with it. Akiza, in her new overpowered form, is done hearing all about Misty's sad stories and ends up getting out her Black Rose Dragon with the power of it all blowing the House of Mirrors away, revealing the real Misty standing there in the duel now for them to finish things off. Sayer, from a distance, is pleased with Akiza, wanting her to destroy anyone in her way so that they can work together and revive and run the Arcadia movement. Now, to come to the rescue of Mina and Yusei, who are still in danger by the way, is none other than Trudge, who finds Mina's ID and sees the Jack Atlas sticker inside of it, cursing his hatred for him in a playful manner because he loves Mina and is still crushed that she's into Jack. It's a funny moment that is severely needed at this point in the season with everything being so serious, but hey, from it, he hears Mina screaming for help and is able to find the two of them, trying to rescue them before it's too late and they drown. With the duel between the two out in the open for others like Luna and Leo to see, they notice Akiza's attacks being real despite this not being a shadow duel technically, at least not yet. So they know she's dueling with her psychic powers again. So once Misty is feeling that type of heat and the passion she has over what happened to her brother hits a boiling point, she activates her lizard Nazca line to make it an official shadow duel. Trudge is able to end up saving Yusei and Mina after Mina cries out for Jack's help instead, which is pretty messed up, but hey, it gave Trudge the strength to help get them both free, so there's that. When Yusei gets over to Leo and Luna, he gets updated on what's happened to Akiza, and then he takes notice of Sayer being around and watching, realizing that the mysterious person was him. Like, yeah, no duh, my man, but hey, at least you figured it out, proud of you, gold star. He ends up going to confront him and does the most epic entrance, bursting through the door with a full front roll. It's just the coolest thing you could possibly do when entering a room aside from this.
Yeah, what about? Oh God. Oh God. Oh jeez. Oh, my sciatica.
Sayer lives up to his name and starts saying a lot of things, mentioning that there is some other truth that is real about Misty's brother's disappearance, but it's not the story she believes it to be, as we see a quick flashback to moments ago where Mina is telling Yusei that the Arcadia movement was providing false information to investigators. So from the cover-ups and lies of Sayer, Misty wound up on the path she did to become a Dark Signer technically. Yusei straight up says that Sayer is at fault for Toby's disappearance, and he's all like, yeah, if so, what are you gonna do about it, punk? For the main duel going on, Misty eventually is able to get out her Earthbound Immortal, Kakaraya, and I love that Akiza is just in such an evil trance that when this giant lizard is summoned, she's just smiling and standing as still as the animation in. While Yusei and Sayer aren't dueling but have their duel discs at the ready, Yusei gets Sayer to fill us in on the truth. You know, so he's gonna do that whole thing where he admits to what really happened because he believes he'll win in the end anyway. He did everything he did for the sake of not jeopardizing his work, and Akiza was just an easy scapegoat because of the nature of her powers and the incidents that they would cause. We see that Sayer was actually working on Toby the same way we've seen him work on other potential psychic kids before, shocking him to see what he can handle and what can come out of him. But it wasn't going anywhere, and Sayer told his team to just ship him off to where they send the other failures. In the Japanese version, this shocking sequence is a lot more intense, and rather than them just turning down the power from the shocks, they're actually turning it up. Sayer then gushes about how perfect and naive Akiza is, which leads to Yusei wanting to fight this guy. But before Sayer gets the upper hand and takes out Yusei, our spiky hair protagonist here reveals that he's been broadcasting their conversation directly to Misty. So everything that was just said, she knows. And now that she knows, she wants to know where her brother is, and after he explains that he doesn't even know because wherever he was sent off to is a secret location that is constantly moving. She has her immortal then just eat Sayer, and now he's dead, right? Like he wasn't absorbed into the beast for power, the lizard straight up just ate him. Neat. It's more graphic in the Japanese version, of course, but with this, the hold over Akiza with her powers has faded too, and she seems to be coming back to herself, with Misty apologizing for blaming her and coming after her. She tries forfeiting the duel, knowing that it will still cost her as she'll be sent to the Netherworld, but hopes that Akiza can find it in her heart to still look for Toby for her. This would be a real touching moment if it weren't for the shadow entity taking over Misty and forcing her to finish the duel though. Misty is trying her best to fight the darkness, but she knows she can't hold it back, begging Akiza to finish things off and defeat her for the sake of stopping the Dark Signers and to find Toby. With the darkness coming at Akiza as hard as possible, Akiza gets her big moment to have her Black Rose Dragon on the field as the spirit version of the real Misty appears to reach out to her, to give her that okay to attack Misty and potentially hurt her, and of course sending her to the Netherworld. With Misty wanting Akiza to be safe and make this decision as an attack is coming her way, so she then uses the trap card Nature's Reflection to send the attack damage right to evil Misty's life points, defeating the final Dark Signer in a duel. Misty's final words to Akiza are that if she ever finds Toby, tell him that his big sister loves him, as her pendant that she wore that Toby once gave her flies off and Akiza holds on to it, promising to make up for what happened to him. But in the Japanese version, Toby's well, it's portraying him as being dead, not just shipped off somewhere never to be seen again, but yeah, I know, still a not so happy ending here, and you end up feeling really sad for both Misty and Toby. Now, even with all of the citizens returning, there is no time to celebrate as the sky grows dark, and it seems like a new Dark Signer has emerged in New Domino City, with the Nazca line of the Condor appearing large and bright in the sky. We have now reached the final 3 episodes of this season, the big, epic, grand finale. Can everything wrap up neatly and the day be saved? Or are things only going to get darker from here?
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's will sign back on after these messages. Signing back on.
As Jack and Crow pull up to the others, it's not just the new immortal sign in the sky to worry about, as over at the reactor site coming from the Netherworld is this giant demonic sludge beast, and all Yusei has to say to this is,
Uh-oh, trouble.
when he really should have said,
What?
None of them know what to do, but they assume that this is the king of the Netherworld they've been hearing all about recently. But the spirit of Kuriban comes to inform Luna to tell the others that if they let the beast make it to the condor symbol across the water in New Domino City, then a lot of bad things are going to happen. Yusei, once again, may have the worst response come back saying,
What kind of bad things?
I don't know, Yusei. It's like a giant kaiju heading towards where a large population of people live. There's no time to wait and see just what kind of bad things this Digimon is about to go and do here. All of the signers' marks start glowing as then the Crimson Dragon appears and ends up taking all of them, non-signers included, and brings them over to the stairway altar, which is no longer underneath Rex's mansion and is all out in the open right under the Condor. Rex greets them all, telling them that while they defeated the Dark Signers, they didn't close the portal to the Netherworld in time. But Rex isn't telling them that they failed, because for him, they didn't. And he's just waiting here for the beast because it's all tied to some ritual that he wants to perform, one that has happened at this shrine many of times, as he then reveals to have his brother's severed arm and plans to connect it to his, revealing why he has a metal arm as well, which means, yeah, he cut it off too. But for some more ridiculousness, minus Rob Deerdeck, Rex reveals that he's also a Dark Signer, and the mark of the Condor is right there on his back, as he all of a sudden grows massive muscles that literally rip out of his shirt. Yeah, I don't know why either, but sure, let's just go with this. He claims to want the powers of both the light and the darkness in order to rule the world, which is like, so boring, man. We've been here so many times before, like literally this like same exact situation, but more importantly, in the Japanese version of the show, we get to see him putting on his brother's arm to have both the marks on him, and his purpose here was to use the power from the king of the Netherworld in order to plainly just destroy the world before rebuilding it with the power of the Crimson Dragon to recreate his new world in his vision, essentially becoming a god himself. So like, it's still not the most wholly original reasoning and plan, but at least it's better than, I want to rule the world for whatever reason. I'm the king now. As he does all of this, the stairway altar rises high into the air, overlooking all of New Domino City, as he is preparing to do battle with the signers, as if he beats them and sends them all to the Netherworld, he can then control the king of the Netherworld to do his bidding properly. Of course, our signers here are ready to do what they can to stop stop the end of the world from happening. Well, Akiza and Luna aren't because they need duel runners, as this is a turbo duel that will be had, and it will be a 3-on-1 matchup on the crest of the Condor in the sky like they're on Rainbow Road or something, giving each of them the standard 4,000 life points, but to even the playing field, Rex will have 12,000 in total. One by one, Jack, Crow, and Yusei start setting up their moves before it'll be Rex's turn. As of course, throughout the duel, we are getting some flashbacks to events that happened, because this is how they do it here in Yu-Gi-Oh! As Rex says that before his brother released the power of Energy, Roman gave Rex his arm that contained the Crimson Dragon's mark, along with all of the information about the battle the King of the Netherworld and the Crimson Dragon do every so often. But both marks of darkness and light started consuming his brother, making Roman's body the battleground for their next fight, so when he knew the darkness was getting too strong, he knew the light needed to be saved in order to keep the darkness in check, giving Rex his arm for safekeeping, and from there, Rex did what he was supposed to do. He gathered the 4 signers, and when he went to confront his brother, you know, that moment where they had their duel discs out but then, you know, didn't duel, well, they actually did duel. Rex was trying to defeat him, but in the end, he lost. Roman was surprised by this, knowing based on his cards that he threw the match, with Rex claiming he had his reasonings for doing so, wanting to end the cycle of this repeating every 5,000 years, because if he lost here, then he would become a dark signer who would then also have the power of the light in order for him to become the god that he wants to be. Roman wasn't on board with this, thinking his brother was just going crazy, but it was already too late. The darkness had come for Rex, and his plans were set in motion, as Roman would continue under the power of the darkness anyway to just go and lose to Yusei shortly after. Yusei tells Rex that he may have the power of light and darkness on his side, but they have the power of God and anime on theirs, so there's no way they're going to lose. Hopefully. For real though, Yusei says that they have the power to fight for what's right on their side, so you know, basically what I just said. But Rex here then instantly synchro summons Sun Dragon Inti with 3,000 attack points, so that's fun. He isn't done though. He ends up getting out a Dark Tuner monster so that he can tune it with another monster to Dark Synchro summon Moon Dragon Kuya with 2,500 attack points, having out representatives of both the Sun and the Moon. But then the Moon one is destroyed instantly by the end of his turn on purpose, as he teases the answer as to why he just did that coming very soon. So everyone's like, okay dude, either you're dumb or we're cooked. Place your bets. To get prepared for what Rex has planned, Crow ends up synchro summoning Blackwing Armor Master, as he uses the strategy of placing a wedge counter onto Rex's Sun Dragon in order to lower its attack points to 0, giving Crow a chance to destroy it with another monster. But not only does it have the ability to destroy the monster Crow attacked with, it also could hurt Crow back for the amount of the attack points that monster had, bringing him down to 1,800 left, as Rex leads on and teases that he may have actually been that mysterious guy who started building that bridge back in the day before jumping off of it with his bike never to be seen again, which everyone is like, what? It's kind of what he was teasing to Crow earlier when they were in the reactor together, but he admits it was him who was trying to build that bridge between the cities. He thought he couldn't miss with what he was doing in life, learning a lesson that even if you can't miss, you can still be destroyed. And since he has learned that if you really want something, you must do whatever is necessary to get it. Whatever any of that means. I'm not really following his couldn't miss logic here on a base level of relating it to why he was building the bridge all the way to what he is doing right now. Hopefully this gets expanded upon a lot better as things go on here. But then his Moon Dragon comes back thanks to the Sun Dragon being defeated, so they can work in tandem with one another this way. When one falls, the other rises. Speaking of things working in tandem, he then takes all of their marks with the full symbol for the Crimson Dragon then appearing on his chest, saying he is going to stop at nothing to rule all. As the duel continues, we see that Angela is reporting this all happening on the news from a more ignorant to the picture side of things, because how would she know? But also, why aren't they reporting on the big scary sludge demon coming their way from the satellite? I feel like there should be some focus on that too, but you know, I'm not a journalist, so who am I to say? Anyway, Jack is able to get a decent shot in at Rex to bring his life points down a little, with Crow playing off of that to cause a chain of pain thanks to him activating his trap card Shadow Dance, dealing Rex another 1,000 points of damage to his life points. But then Yusei's all like, but wait, there's more! As he then activates the trap card Rising Rush, allowing him to bring out his Junk Synchron Tuner monster, and Jack's all like, nice, you take it from here, buddy. And it's just kind of fun to see them working on the same side fully now, you know? Yusei then tunes it with his Max Warrior in order to synchro summon Junk Archer with 2,300 attack points, using its special ability to remove Rex's Moon Dragon from play this turn, but then Rex has a trap of his own that gets activated, offering to the Immortals, negating the attack Yusei was about to directly hit him with, as well well as summoning 2 sacrificial stone monument tokens, along with getting to add his Earthbound Immortal right to his hand. Geez, that feels pretty unfair, but whatever. It's not my duel for the fate of the world. That happens in the next season of my life during the Evil Jordan Fringe arc, but I'm not spoiling anything more. Now, with it being Rex's turn, he immediately gets out his Earthbound Immortal, the Condor Wiracocha Raska, as it then starts absorbing all of the souls of the people around watching this all take place in the city. And after we get this big summoning moment for Yveltal over here, it's pretty funny when the computer voice explaining the card is like, yeah, it's got 1 attack point and 1 defense point. It doesn't make it seem so scary, but of course it has special abilities and effects that'll make up for that. Also, the King of the Netherworld is getting closer, as it then shoots out all of these shadow birds that start trying to unfairly attack Yusei, Crow, and Jack, but thankfully, Akiza and Luna send in their Black Rose Dragon and Ancient Fairy Dragon to help, as Trudge, Mina, and Leo say that they have their backs as well to help make sure that Rex isn't pulling any snake moves like this, and that they will come to our hero's aid in the duel. Rex then reveals an ability of his Immortal, and that's if he skips his battle phase, that it can then lower the life points of one person to just 1 point, which, okay, yeah, that kind of makes up for the whole 1 attack, 1 defense point type of thing going on here. Crow has had enough of this evil Rex act, opening up about how the mysterious guy in the past was a hero that he looked up to. It was someone who inspired him, as Rex says he's just not that man anymore. So when Rex takes aim at Yusei, Crow plays Life Exchange, figuring that if his hero isn't going to be who he once was, then he is going to step up and fill those shoes, claiming that Yusei is their best bet in defeating Rex, so he'll have to do what he can to protect him here. When this hits Crow, bringing him down to just 1 life point left, he gets knocked off the edge, but you know, he was ready for this, activating his dual runner's wings and explaining that Life Exchange also then can destroy one of Rex's monsters, as Crow chooses the Moon Dragon. Crow then flies his bike right through it to destroy it, which triggers the tandem effect to then resurrect the Sun Dragon. Crow then slams down onto the Nazca line, of course, causing his dual runner to crash, and things aren't looking too good for him from there. Right before he crashed, he gets rid of his Blackwing Armor Master to activate the trap card Blackwing Anchor, setting something up to come later, as he wants Jack and Yusei to keep on taking things from here. For Jack's turn now, he ends up synchro summoning his Red Dragon Archfiend, and as Yusei helps him with a strategy here to make sure that they can break through Rex's own strategy, Rex tries to get into Jack's head about taking orders from Yusei, claiming that the Jack that he knows wouldn't take orders from anyone, calling him a nobody now that he lost to Yusei, and is just friends and working together with all of these other people, trying to get him to switch sides to have a chance at becoming the greatest duelist again. And while Jack says he's right, and that he is going to duel for himself, he doesn't mean it exactly how Rex is thinking, because after he plays into a move that Yusei doesn't think he should do, he mentions that he doesn't want to be anything like Rex. He says being the best is nice, but not when you experience it alone, and what really matters is having people to share your triumphs with, claiming that this group here has really shown him that, and even more so, specifically Carly has really showed him that. He vows that he is giving up his loner ways for good, as it being the least that he can do for all that everyone else has done for him. He's going to put everything that makes him him into being a good person, being a beacon of someone who will do the right thing. And while this is all lovely to hear, and Yusei's even all like,
Wow, Jack.
Rex couldn't care less about any of this. He's saying there's nothing they can do, this sappy crap isn't going to win them the duel in the end, and things overall aren't looking too great for Jack and Yusei as we end here before the final episode of the season.
Next, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's.
Signing back on.
Alright, this is it, the last episode of Season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's. Let's see how it all comes together and wraps up. I just love that we start out with these zoom-in shots of seeing where every character is at with their life points, and then it just zooms into Crow still laying on the ground with 1 life point left, and there's just something so comical about that in like the worst way possible. It's so funny. Right away, Rex continues with his plan to drain the life points of another one of our heroes thanks to his Immortal, aiming at Jack and bringing him down to 1 life point left as well. At the same time, we see that the King of the Netherworld has made it to New Domino City, with the citizens starting to run for their lives. It probably should have started running for your lives and evacuating way sooner, but hey, there's so much going on, I don't blame you. You all have busy lives and it's annoying to be constantly interrupted by things. Anyway, no, stop! What could possibly be the problem now?
I don't have an HD DVD player.
No one does!
So what do I do with them?
I don't know, put them on a shelf to collect dust like every other collectible does.
Oh, you're so right. You know what? I'm gonna go put these right next to my collection of weird McDonald's sauces.
Thank you. Your what? The King of the Netherworld sends in a powerful attack right into the duel, making Jack crash and taking him out like Crow from being able to continue really dueling for now, but vows to Yusei that if he is needed, he'll be there for him, calling him his friend once more, and it really brings a tear to your eyes, man. Crow makes the same vow as Yusei has to face Rex head-on by himself, but of course, this won't be easy. Rex instantly drains Yusei to 1 life point left as well, wanting to see him beg for his life, but Yusei isn't going down from that, still having all of the confidence in the world that he is going to win this. He starts tuning some monsters together to bring out his Stardust Dragon, saying his catchphrase, "Let's rev it up" for the final time in a duel this season, and from this, he uses Crow's trap card, Blackwing Anchor, giving Stardust Dragon a total of 5,000 attack points, sending in an attack to destroy Rex's Sun Dragon, but from that monster's effect, it would destroy Stardust Dragon. But in order to save it, Yusei uses its effect to release itself from the game to negate the effect. But when Rex is bringing back his Moon Dragon thanks to the whole tandem thing going on with the Sun Dragon, Yusei activates Jack's trap card, Conquest of the Supreme Ruler, stopping the Moon Dragon from coming back out, and with the turn ending, Stardust Dragon is able to be resurrected for Yusei thanks to its effect, and the bond that they all share can be felt in this duel right now. But Rex claims that there is no such thing as a bond that people can share, which is like a weird stance. You literally have your brother's arm attached to your body so that both the light and the dark symbols can bond within you. And even Yusei knows this, calling out Rex and saying that's why he wanted to build the bridge in the first place, to fulfill the dreams him and Roman both shared. And Rex is like, no, you're wrong, stop trying to confuse me, dude, it won't work, just shut up, man, as he tries to finish Yusei off. But Jack tells Yusei to activate the other trap card he placed down, Scrubbed Raid, stopping the Immortal from landing an attack. Rex tries activating his trap card Meteor Flare to deal 2,000 points of damage towards Yusei, but then Yusei activates another trap card, Joint Future, negating the effects of it, as Yusei continues to use Takno Jutsu, or the Steven Universe method of trying to get Rex to dig deep into his heart and work through this evil business to see the light, telling him the bond that he has with his brother is still there, and he just needs to listen to him. As we then see the spirit of Roman show up next to Rex and disappointingly shake his head going, "Oh, Rex," before disappearing, and you know how bad that one has to hurt. Like, come on, disappointing? Ugh. The mark of the Crimson Dragon disappears from Rex's body and is redistributed to the signers, with Yusei getting the mark of the head this time, and there is now a new 5th signer, as Crow is officially given a marking as well. The power they feel is stronger than ever, and Rex is crying over him thinking he was the chosen one, but you know how it goes if you claim yourself to be that. Anyway, the top card in Yusei's deck starts to glow like it did previously, with the full Crimson Dragon symbol appearing on his back again, meaning it can only be one card that he is about to draw, and that's right, Pot of Greed, baby! Heck yeah, here it comes! It's not Pot of Greed, it's Majestic Dragon, of course, because he then does the big synchro summoning here to get out his Majestic Star Dragon with 3,800 attack points. It negates the power of Rex's Immortal, as he then plays the trap card Synchro Baton, allowing for it to gain 600 attack points for every synchro monster in the graveyard, growing to 6,200 in attack point power in total. Going in with an attack and defeating Rex, as Yusei quickly turns his dragon around to aim right at the King of the Netherworld, who was quickly approaching, as the Crimson Dragon appears over top Majestic Star Dragon. When their two attacks meet, Yusei is brought into a space-like void, seeing all of the Dark Signers that have been defeated laying unconscious here. He also then sees Rex and Roman, who are both conscious, as Rex seems to have returned to his normal self, along with Roman, getting to have a moment with his brother in a way that they haven't been able to truly have in nearly decades. Rex tells Yusei he was right about him having the bond here with his brother, and that they are in a place that is between light and darkness, a place of peace, all thanks to Yusei's actions, telling him that the bonds we make are truly the only thing that really matters in life. Rex then says that the previous Dark Signers, all the ones laying unconscious, have a place back on Earth after all that happened to them. But as for him and Roman, they have some catching up to do, leaving it kind of ambiguous as to what that means for their fate specifically, especially if everyone else resurrects. Do they as well, or are they truly no longer a part of this world? We see the aftermath of Yusei's final attack with the King of the Netherworld being defeated and disappearing, along with the Stairway Altar doing the same, removing the Condor's Nazca line from the air, as all of them start falling back down to Earth, but then Majestic Star Dragon saves them all as it flies around, reversing all of the damage done to the city, as it ends up taking Yusei, Jack, and Crow somewhere else as they fly into the sunrise. We then have a little bit of a jump in time to see where life is now in New Domino City as it's returned back to normal, with Akiza, Leo, Luna, and Mina all out together right now, with Akiza showing that she received a postcard from Misty, who is traveling around the world and currently in Paris, Paris. Luna brings up hearing that Greiger and Callan are somewhere having a great time doing something. I don't know, we really don't get any other details than that. But Luna wants to know if anyone has heard from Yusei, Jack, or Crow, as Trudge pulls up to them and says he hasn't found a trace of them after looking everywhere, as we then see Carly removing a disguise as she's back to being a journalist trying to write her story about all this Signer stuff that happened, freaking out about how she is going to write all of this if the trio of fellas aren't around. For some reason, Carly can't remember a thing that happened, thinking it was some weird magic brainwashing memory type of thing that's going on that she has no clue about what to do. So does that mean she forgot the love confession that she and Jack had? Okay, yeah, that was more so in the Japanese version they directly said that, but still, what does this mean for them? Then we cut to Yusei, Jack, and Crow standing in the satellite thinking to themselves that the others will understand where they have been, as we see that they've completed building a whole new massive bridge that connects the satellite and New Domino City together, as they claim there are still many more bridges out there that need building. My question is, they built all this? They did all of this that fast, assuming the time gap wasn't that long? And did no one see the bridge getting built by them? Like, were there no news reports? You know, there's gotta be like some official documentation of all this going on and like zoning permits, but who cares? It's Yu-Gi-Oh! After all, and a happy, conclusive ending to the season. And that's what really matters. The three of them then roll out in order to do this together as a team, basically being the new school version of the Enforcers, as for just one more time, however, outside of a duel, Yusei says let's rev it up as we close out on this season with no real tease of what's to come next. This all really felt like something that would be at the end of a series, not at the end of a season. Like, if this was the end of 5D's, it was a pretty big enough event that would make sense for it to be here, but with how it does technically end and also there being 3 more seasons, yeah, 5D's is long from over. So who knows what's coming next, aside from those who have watched the series, but don't ruin the fun. We're going all over all of this stuff, okay? Honestly, I am really surprised at how good this season was overall. Sure, there's a few things here or there that I didn't love, but still a really well put together and packaged season nonetheless. It was truly great to see how it all came together in the end, but more importantly than the whole big conclusion here was the growth of our main characters this season. While Yusei still feels like a character that we would follow for the sake of moving through the story, this season they did give him a lot more importance to tying his past into the overall narrative that felt pretty natural, while still not giving us the full big picture. We're slowly peeling back the layers of his past that make him more and more interesting as we do. I also think Crow was a pretty great addition to the series, and to understand the bond the 3 of them had in the past, well, 4 of them if we're talking about Callan, but just how well it was really done, and that it really helps fill in the gaps that weren't in season 1, and makes the stuff that we see happen there make a lot more sense and hit a whole lot harder now. For more though, the best character with the biggest character arc is obviously Jack Atlas. From where we see him at the start of this season to where he ends up at the end of it is an incredible growth to witness, as you can see him changing episode by episode. From meeting Carly, to being back with Yusei and Crow, to learning to work together and share a bond, to be selfless and understanding what's truly important to yourself in life. It's all so wonderfully done, and I think Jack is the most interesting character to follow in 5D's thus far. I do think other characters like Akiza, Leo, and Luna all get some great time to shine in figuring out more about who they are for themselves here, but they do end up taking a backseat in the end while Yusei, Jack, and Crow take center stage. But the silent MVP who does deserve some praise is Trudge. Seeing him be brought back in pretty much no difference from than he was in the first season, for him to then end up becoming a better person all around by the end of it thanks to his actions, and the actions of others around him. So whether he was doing this initially for a crush that he had on Mina, or later on wanting to be the person that one kid viewed him as, he still became a hero and stood strong with those he would have been against before, learning that the system he is in has a lot of work to do to be better, and that he needs to be a part of the change he now wants to see as well. And I also just want to mention the subtlety here that they use with Rex's character to show who he truly was, and that he was trying to be a good person this whole time, despite the evil taking over, or anything else alluding to bad things with him. Because at once he was looked up as this hero who was going to build the bridge to connect the cities, but after he jumped the bridge and went to New Domino City and made a name for himself with a high-ranking position, there was still an attempt for him to build a bridge from that side, as we see very early on in the season without knowing any real context. So when Yusei even even asks him to build a bridge so that he can go forward and do this mission on those grounds, Rex is hesitant because he can't be open about what that really means to him. So I really like how these little extra details here paint an even larger picture to who Rex is, or at least who he once was. While the big main narrative and overall ending battle all revolve around the light facing the darkness again for a Yu-Gi-Oh series, I think there is enough new here that they did with this concept that make it fresh and fun, and also very extremely over-the-top tragic. Why was this season such a traumatizing season to sit through? Oh my god. There was also a lot less turbo duels this season, which I found odd because it's one of the main selling points of this series. You know, the whole card games while racing on motorcycles thing, but in how they were used here, especially in the back half, they were a lot more fun, and I'm looking forward to more ways of them being incorporated in the future seasons. Plus, we also didn't ever get to see this 5th dragon that I guess is something that Crow has, and we will see soon enough in this series. Also, I'm just gonna say it, it's been bugging me for like 2 seasons now, but every time I see Yusei with his helmet on, it always looks like the YouTube symbol to me. Like, you see it too, right? Like right there, that's the YouTube play button. Anyway, did anyone happen to see what happened to my like resurrection charm? I tried putting it in my pocket, clearly. Oh. Well, I'm sure I'll be fine, right? Whatever, you know. I will see you in part 3 of this series when we look at the 3rd season of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's. But until then, I've been Jordan Fringe. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you later.